Ladies and gentlemen of the South Carolina Firefighters Association, please stand for the presentation of our colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Dear graciously Heavenly Father, we gather today with grateful hearts, united in purpose and in service. Thank you for the brave men and women who have answered the call to be firefighters, those who run toward danger so others may find safety. As we begin this conference, we invite your presence into your every session. We invite your presence in every conversation. We invite your presence in every decision made here. Grant wisdom to those who lead, humility to those who teach, and open the hearts of those who listen. May this conference not only equip, but also inspire, renewing the spirits, reinforcing bonds, and reminding all present of the noble calling they have embraced. Amen, amen, amen.
You may be seated. What a great start to the conference already. If that doesn't get your heart pumping, I don't know what does. Great processional with the pipes and drums, presentation of colors, a beautiful national anthem, and then a great prayer from our chaplain. I hope he sent a couple up for me. We are extremely excited for this year's conference. We're back at the beach, and we're also celebrating our 120th anniversary of this amazing Fire Rescue Association. Who all played in the golf tournament yesterday? This is where you raise your hand if you played in the golf tournament. Who's sore? I just turned 41 a couple months ago, and it takes a little longer to recoup from a game of golf. So thank you for those that showed up and played in the golf tournament. That was a huge success. We also want to thank the Firefighters Foundation and sponsors for hosting that. Just a reminder, all the money that was raised for that goes to our members of South Carolina if something happens and you need some money. I am happy to report that 0 golf carts made it in the ponds. We had 0 people actually jump into the ponds, so we'll chalk that up as a win. We had a great turnout at the Beach Bash yesterday. For those that attended, thank you so much. Who caught a football? Anyone catch a football? Did anyone get hit by a football? We had some of those throwing some zingers. I will say I saw several of them throwing, and it's a good thing that they're firefighters and not into sports. Otherwise, we had Chief Holtzheimer who was throwing some zingers out there. So again, thank you for attending that. Chief Kramer, Zarina, the insurance services, thank you so much for holding that and hosting that. That was a great event last night. We have an exciting week ahead of us. It's filled with great classes, great instructors, and great fellowship. We're extremely blessed to have so many talented in-state instructors, in which many will be here throughout the week teaching. Now, please be sure to go to their classes and support them. We also have a great lineup of nationally recognized instructors as well, so I'm extremely excited about that. Our training and education committee, chaired by Terry Sheriff, they have done a fabulous job with the class lineup and the instructors for this year, so thank you so much for that. And Rick Dunn also, thank you so much for your hard work and everything that you've done. I've also started this conference one up from the past president last year, Chief Malcolm Burns. We had cannolis this year at dinner, so things are going great so far, so hopefully that'll continue. Again, we are extremely excited about this week and all the other upcoming events that we've got going on throughout. We would love to see you at every event that we have planned and we have scheduled. So it is now my honor to introduce Tom Guire, the Fire Chief for the Myrtle Beach Fire Department.
Good morning, everybody. On behalf of everyone at the Myrtle Beach Fire Department, it is my honor and privilege to welcome you back to the beach and to Fire Rescue 2025. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you this morning. Honestly, this is always such a humbling moment for me. It's so special to be able to stand here before you. And the reason it's so special is that this event brings us together as one fire department family, where we can celebrate the shared values that we have in the fire service, such as courage, commitment, service, and selflessness. But we wouldn't be here together if it wasn't for the work of a lot of people. And I know President Arant mentioned them a few moments ago, but it certainly takes a village to pull off a conference like this. So personally, I would like to recognize all of the staff members at the South Carolina Firefighters Association for the tremendous work they do. Believe it or not, it's not just the past month. They work on this. They'll be working on next year's conference starting on Sunday. Certainly want to thank President Arant for his amazing work over the past year, along with his executive committee, the Training and Education Committee, the Conference Experience Committee, all the sponsors, vendors, honor guards, pipes and drums, instructors, everybody for being here to pull this conference off. Without these people, it's not possible, and we wouldn't be gathered here today. As President Arant mentioned before, this conference is packed full of experiences and educational opportunities. And it's my hope that we're able to be inspired by these things, and it helps us remember why we're here, and that is to serve and protect our communities. While you're here, if there's anything that I can do, or there's anything the Myrtle Beach Fire Department can do to make your stay better, please feel free to reach out, and we'll certainly do what we can. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our amazing mayor at the City of Myrtle Beach and staunch supporter of the fire service, the Honorable Brenda Bethune.
They put a little box here because I'm short. Good morning. Good morning. Are you excited to be back in Myrtle Beach? Are you awake? Are you alive? Are you breathing? Look at this set behind me. I told Chief Guire backstage, this is like something you see in Hollywood. I feel like I should be running in slow motion or something. But I want to tell you what an honor it is to welcome you back to Myrtle Beach. I know that you come here year after year, and we truly appreciate you choosing our hometown for your conference. What you do matters. What you do is important. It is vital to each of your communities. And I can't imagine what it's like to be in your shoes, where you wake up every morning not knowing what to expect. But you do it, and you do it with your hearts. You do it with integrity. And thank you for your bravery. Thank you for your service. It truly does make a difference. Enjoy your time in Myrtle Beach this weekend, as Chief Guire said, and by the way, he is my favorite fire chief. I want to make that clear. We want you to have a great time, and if we can do anything to make your stay here more special, please let us know. But just enjoy yourselves, enjoy all that our great city has to offer, and enjoy your conference. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the mayor, we were kind of talking backstage, and she said this is the greatest group that they have come in conference, and they have zero issues with this. So thank y'all so much for abiding by all the laws and acting like you're supposed to. Thank you so much. So throughout the year, being a part of the executive committee, we talk about a lot. But there's one thing that we kind of keep close to our heart and our chest, and that's who we're going to have as a keynote speaker that comes up to speak. Several reasons, but the main reason is we don't want the next president to find out who we want to come and speak, so they'll go and steal that person. Now, the gentleman that I'm about to introduce, after he gets done with his message, you're going to understand why I kept that close, so no one would steal him, because that's how good he is. So, this is Chief Dan Shaw. Dan has been a student of the fire service since 1992, starting in the fire service in Howard County, Maryland, as a volunteer. In 1995, he was appointed to the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department, Virginia, and he has held every rank throughout his career. He retired in July 2025 as the Assistant Chief of Operations for the department. Dan also delivers fire service instruction around the country and has taught at many national conferences covering firefighting, leadership, and officer development. He serves on the Fire Department Instructors Conference Advisory Board, is a chairman of the NFPA 1403 Committee, and is a panel member for the Underwriters Laboratories Firefighter Safety Research Institute. He co-authored the book, 25 to Survive, Reducing Residential Injuries and Line of Duty Deaths. That was published in 2013, and has also written several articles for Fire Engineering Magazine. Dan had the distinct honor of being the keynote speaker at FDIC International in 2022. Please join me in welcoming Chief Dan Shaw to the stage.
Good morning. I think we should start every morning with Enter Sandman when you walk in and wake up. It's not a bad way to start. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. This quote that is often attributed to our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, so eloquently and simply states a point that is vital to us as firefighters. We must painstakingly train and drill, dedicating time, effort, and sweat to hone skills in our preparation for a task that may only take a few moments to execute, but is essential to our success. The task of applying 8 pounds of force on a nozzle barrel, releasing hundreds of gallons of water onto the seat of a fire may be simple. Equally, the concept of forcing that front door, clearing that window to search, all are simple tasks that only take seconds. But the preparation and the repeated practice to hone that skill were years in the making, because the repercussions for not doing that task competently and effectively can be deadly. Deadly to us and deadly to those we took an oath to protect. The question then becomes not simply how do we prepare, but how do we prepare correctly? How do we sharpen our axe? With all the demands upon us in the American Fire Service, it could be easy to lose focus, and it becomes even harder to prioritize what is important with the multitude of demands on us today. But history teaches us many valuable lessons about how we can be successful if we only remove our blinders, put our bias and our ego in our back pocket, and we're willing to learn. Since the earliest days of our civilization, we have used storytelling to share history from one generation to the next, sharing lessons and experiences, sharing how far we have come, and sharing to ensure our past is never forgotten as we forge into the future. It can be a struggle to always be prepared and lead in this ever-changing environment. But an important first step is to know our history and understand why that history has such a profound effect on everything we do every single day. The fire service has led us, albeit under the most unfortunate of circumstances, to learn from firefighters we will never meet, like Brett Tarver from the Phoenix Fire Department, and Kyle Wilson from Prince William County Fire Rescue Department of Virginia, and Lewis Matthew and Anthony Phillips from the District of Columbia Fire Department. Yet many times when I traveled around my own department, and when I get the privilege and the opportunity to travel around the country teaching, a common occurrence takes place: blank stares. Blank stares because they have no idea what incidents I'm talking about, no idea about the tragedy and sacrifice of our lost brothers and sisters, no idea of even their names. Does this mean they are bad firefighters that are not dedicated to their craft? Absolutely not. This repeated trend means that we as a collective fire service have failed in providing the tool, the outlet, the platform, or the path for our members to learn our history. In the fire service, we like to seek out parallels because it's rather smart to not reinvent the wheel, especially if another industry has already gone through the trials and tribulations of doing so. Specifically, we like to use the military, and why not? They're similar to us in rank structure, organization, and are mission-based. They also offer some clear examples that have been consistently successful. One such example is the Commandant's Reading List. Several years ago, I stumbled upon a letter from 1989 that the 29th Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Al Gray, penned in initiating the Commandant's Reading List. The title of his memo was "A 30-Year-Old Body and a 5,000-Year Mind." And the basis of this letter was the development of this reading list. The reading list would encompass 5,000 years of warfare recorded in annals of history. 5,000 years of documenting history of warfare, of lessons of what worked, and how to make that success occur again. But also lessons about incompetence and failure so it could be avoided in the future. It could be succinctly summed up in a quote in that same letter from the Commandant. "Reading provides a better way to do business. It doesn't provide all the answers, but lights what is a dark path ahead." General Mad Dog Mattis put it even more eloquently. If you are not reading, you are functionally illiterate, and you will be incompetent because your personal experiences alone aren't broad enough to sustain you. And how true is that statement? If you are not reading every day, learning and growing, you may be able to read and write, but our profession demands more than the simple baseline we expect of a third grader. It demands that we can function with a high level of precision in the most chaotic and stressful situations that we face each day. Without capitalizing on this free experience, and that is what it is, don't be mistaken. This is free experience that's extracted from those shoulders we stand on each day. If you are not seizing this free experience that can be gained from our history, we're doing a disservice to ourselves, those we lead and charge down a smoky hallway with, and the families at home waiting for us to come back safely. But there's a caveat to this, and it was captured by Harry Truman. All leaders are readers, but not all readers are leaders. One cannot walk away thinking simply because you read a book, a line of duty death report, or an article that you are a natural-born leader. You're ready for any incident and have magically consumed years of hard-fought firefighting experience. It is work, striving and grinding each day to achieve mastery. It's the constant practice and dedication to the craft. And don't be wise fools and believe that mastery is the end. Mastery is the constant process. Mastery can be likened to scaling a peak and seeing the summit within reach. As you come within inches of that summit, the clouds part and you see the summit is higher. You don't stop. You continue to work. You continue to grind, to adapt, to be resilient in an effort to reach your goal. We must pair our experience with this newfound knowledge and do something with it. It takes work. And we cannot bury our heads in the sand and tie an anchor to our progress with past practices because we're afraid of change and because nothing bad has happened to us yet. The great Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said it best when talking about change. What can take place without change? The universe is change, life is understanding. If you do not believe this statement, think about a few things. I would ask, how many of you walk to work? I would venture to say probably none. You drive. That was change. How many of you use an abacus to figure out your monthly bills? Actually, how many know what an abacus is? Probably none. You use a computer. That was change. How many of you still use a carrier pigeon to shoot a friend a message that you're ready for that ride from the airport? I would guess none. You pull out that small handheld computer and you book an Uber. That was change. So having a sandpaper culture, a culture of resistance, does not equal success in the firehouse or on the fireground. It places ego above mission. And we know an unchecked ego is the enemy to our success and leadership. But here's the best part. There's only one person who crafts this narrative. That is you, that is me, that is all of us, brothers and sisters. And I find it tiresome, and I hope you share the same sentiment. When I hear people say or espouse on social media that we need to take the fire service back, who took it and where did it go? And if someone did, we're culpable because we allowed them to do so. We all face this struggle to embrace change and dig deep to find the root cause. The fire service as an organization has failed in this endeavor to go beyond the easy, superficial solution, but today we can change that narrative. So it begs the question, is there a single universal platform or tool for the fire service that exists to overcome this challenge? We don't have the Army Command and General Staff College that provides degrees focusing on the learning of our history, or even a simple tool like a universal reading list. Instead, we have enormous amounts of streams of data with no clear direction or pathway to learn and apply. So if you were not impacted by a dedicated leader or indoctrinated during your early years on the what and the how to learn and grow from our past, then you were left to filter through it by yourself, all alone, and determine what is irrelevant and what is beneficial. That is the challenge we face today. How do we honor those we have lost to ensure that they did not die in vain? How do we take what our brothers and sisters face on their most perilous day and use it to make us better. Not just better, but the best in executing the mission. How do we use these lessons to ensure we do not suffer the same outcome? We all have dedicated and talented firefighters who are making calculated decisions in a chaotic environment with limited information. I know when I arrived at a fire, I rarely, if ever, saw acts of commission, or acts of omission, rather. What I saw were many acts of commission. And that's refreshing and offers affirmation that we are on the right path, because we would all take a yoked lion any day over a belligerent donkey. But we also have a responsibility to ensure, like the Stoic Plutarch firmly stated, we cannot have lions being led by donkeys. Brave firefighters must not be led by incompetent leaders. Leaders from the informal to the small unit to the chief officers have to be smart, humble, thinking firefighters that are dedicated students to our craft, putting their ego in their back pocket while focusing on the mission. Equally, we can never underestimate the importance our mindset has on our success and how we approach our trade. For instance, how many times do you hear or you say yourself, it was a routine fire? What is routine? Perhaps we say that because we have the knowledge and experience, and this fire kinda looks like the one we were at. But we know the one constant about the fires we go to is the fire always gets a vote. We have all seen incident commanders that find themselves rendered inept because the fire did not assimilate to their plan or the operational manual. Fires do not care if you are tired, lazy, or feeling complacent. The fire will continue to seek the ability to grow and consume everything as fuel. From the contents of the structure to us that have come to stop its reign of terror. Conversely, some will also say after a significant fire, we will never fight another fire like that again. Wrong. We don't get to pick our fires as much as a soldier doesn't get to pick their wars. We must be prepared, no matter the rank, no matter the type of a department, when we arrive at this dynamic event we call a working fire. And our history can be that linchpin to our success, providing that pathway for the preparation that might make the difference in the outcome, that sharpening of our axe. The Marine Corps has the 5,000-year mine. In the fire service, we should be striving every day to build the 2,000-year mine. Since the days of the Roman Empire, we have been accumulating firefighting knowledge, experience, and lessons to be learned. Our 2,000 years of documented firefighting may be short of the 5,000 years of warfare, but this respectful period of time surely provides a foundation we must not squander. Our quest to develop mastery starts with our attitude. As another Roman Stoic, Epictetus, stated, man cannot learn what he thinks he already knows. So when you pick up that line of duty death report, first and foremost, remove your bias. Don't think because it happens thousands of miles away or in a different kind of fire department that it doesn't apply to you. Second, don't be fooled into the illusion that you know all the details. The organized chaos of the fire ground and all the impacts of stress on human performance and those operating on the fire ground has yet to be fully understood by the fire service as a whole. Reading a line of duty death report in a sterile, climate-controlled environment when you know the outcome can easily lull you into discounting how the stress of the fire ground impacted those individuals who perished. We should seek to understand, we should dig to find root causes, and we should place more effort into critically thinking than thinking critically of those who have perished. Last, read these reports in a manner that make you better and honor those that have perished. Ask yourself these three questions. 1, could this happen to me? We all have the same structures. We all go to unpredictable fires. We all have flawed but dedicated humans that show up at these fires. So the answer is yes, it can happen to you, and you must read and learn. 2, what are the red flags and anomalies that occurred to this incident, and what would I do if I was faced with the same issues? Because we must first recognize red flags and then act accordingly. Ignoring them is not a solution, but it is a recipe for disaster. Many line of duty death and close calls are not one catastrophic event, but rather a series of harmless errors that by themselves seem insignificant. but coupled together in a domino effect, they become deadly. If you can rehearse the situations they faced in the relative comforts of your firehouse at the kitchen table, then you're building a catalog of free experience that you can pull from when you're faced with the same situation. That is honoring those who have lost, who we can only assume would never want us to face the outcome they did. Lastly, how can this event make me and my brother and sisters better? What drill, tip, technique can you pull from the report to ensure it never happens again? I am a firm believer our problem in the fire service as it relates to training is not an unwillingness to train, but not knowing how to train. Again, this is where our history is slapping us right in the face and telling us what to drill on. Let's go back to the names I mentioned earlier of the fallen. Brett Tarver, that's the catalyst for developing the large area search drill. Kyle Wilson, that's the drill on the importance of the residential lap and discussing the impact of wind on residential building fires. And firefighter Matthews and Phillips at Cherry Road Fire in D.C. can be the stimulus and justification for you, yes you, no matter what your rank or your tenure in a department is, to develop and train on coordinated fire attack plans for basement fires. Think about, for a moment, what was the catalyst for the Denver drill and the Columbus drill we all know? A tragic line-of-duty death in those respective cities. As I mentioned before, you, and only you, write this narrative. Ultimately, it is up to you how you will make an impact. I had the distinct privilege in my job to share a few words when delivering a well-deserved recognition to one of our members for either years of service, retirement, or some other achievement. And every time, maybe to a fault, I fell back on a message that resonates with me. That message is simply when we walk away from this profession, when we hang up the turnout gear for the last time, no one will care about the number of medals draping from your Class A uniform, or a number of citations hanging in your personal shrine, or even the vast numbers of letters that are after your name on your email signature. What they will care about, what they will talk about, is your impact. All too many people become consumed with their legacy. Your legacy will be cemented by your actions. You cannot hide from that. As an example of why legacy is not what people remember, nor what isn't really important, ask yourself this simple question. Can you recite the names of your great-great-grandparents? I would venture to say most cannot, but that's your family's legacy. Their names are cemented in your family's history. But I would say many can recite a famous quote or an equally meaningful line from your favorite cult classic movie. Why? Because it made an impact on you. Much like you can probably recall those mentors that gave you their time, those who invested in you and strived to make you better because they made an impact on you. Jackie Robinson, the famous baseball player, his headstone shares it the best. A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. When we arm ourselves with the lessons of our history and pair it with our own experience, we are prepared and ready to make an impact on those we lead and the fire service. The next step can seem daunting and at times insurmountable, but we can never lose focus that it's not about us. It's about those we lead and the mission we took an oath to preserve. The key for you as a leader, regardless of your rank, is to be unafraid. A simple word, but think about what unafraid looks like. It means that you are unafraid of standing up, unafraid of all the naysayers, the ones that are close to you and the ones hiding behind a keyboard that will take shots at you. Unafraid because you understand mission above all else. You understand the commitment to the mission will guide you in taking care of those you lead, and that steadfast dedication is vital to bringing you and your crew home safely. You must be unafraid. We all have the opportunity to lead. It is a gift and a privilege we must never squander. As leaders, we are not focused on fame or accolades. We are focused on those we lead, rising them up, and always maintaining the commitment to the mission we took an oath to preserve. Here again, history is guiding us and providing examples of leaders who were unafraid and how they used their time on earth to leave a positive impact that was not realized until long after they were gone. I am confident that if I asked, maybe only a handful, perhaps none, could identify who this is and what was his impact. This is Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis. He was a German doctor that ran a women's hospital in 1847, rather. Dr. Semmelweis noticed a trend that many of his patients at his hospital were dying at alarming rates. He was committed at all costs to identify this issue and to finding the solution. After an exhaustive process, he determined that the reason for these deaths, the direct cause, were the people who were charged with providing the care to these patients, the doctors. Dr. Semmelweis had identified that doctors were performing autopsies in the morning and then caring for their patients in the afternoon. Essentially, the doctors were taking the disease on their ungloved and unwashed hands from the deceased patients and directly exposing their afternoon patients to the same death sentence. When Dr. Semmelweis brought this to the attention of his peers and provided seemingly simple steps to make sure the doctors would do no harm, he was not met with praise. No, his peers ridiculed him, attacked his character and intelligence, which eventually led to his involuntary commitment to an asylum where he was beat and ultimately died at 47 years old. So what hideous insult did this unafraid leader lodge at the esteemed profession of being a medical doctor? Wash your hands before you touch a patient. Dr. Semmelweis changed the medical profession because he focused on the mission, saving his patients, and was unafraid of the consequences for doing so. He was not alive to reap the accolades and praise, but no one could surmise that he didn't. You really surmise he didn't care about that. He cared about the mission. I want to share another example that's closer to our profession that impacted me and demonstrates this point. The leader I want to share a story about is Pete Lund. Many in this room may know Pete, and that is no surprise. For those who don't, Pete was a decorated veteran of the FDNY and a dedicated volunteer to his community in Long Island. Pete was not tall in stature, but stood among the giants and was a luminary in the fire service. Pete did not use his years of experience and service to boost his ego. No, he used it to leave an impact. He recognized that a gap existed between what we learn in Proby School and the challenges we face every day in the streets. And that gap exists regardless of your affiliation. When I met and got to teach with Pete, he was in the twilight of his career, but the passion was palpable, and he wanted to be an agent for making us better. And wading into this gray area of sharing your experience and knowledge without offering certification was surely daunting, leaving him open easily to plenty of criticism about his motives. The question for him, though, was simply how could he share his knowledge and experiences to make the next generation better? His solution was not an elaborate drill, a new piece of equipment, or a thought-provoking article, all which Pete was surely capable of. No, it was simply sharing his time, his mindset, and his ethos. He alone coined the simple phrase, combat ready for the fire service. This mantra was a reflection of him, the accumulation of his years of experience and those he worked alongside. Simply put, his mindset was to treat every fire you go to as the biggest fire of your career until you get there and determine otherwise. Regardless of whether you work for the largest urban department or the small volunteer department, which sadly is where Pete lost his life in 2006 doing what he loved, being a firefighter in his community. Pete was not pretentious, and if you were passionate about being better and learning, then you would reap the rewards of learning from him. He wanted firefighters to be better, and he invested his time, the currency with a value beyond comprehension, to make that happen. He was not interested in accolades for spending his time over time at doing this. Rather, he understood the importance of making an impact and the commitment and responsibility to our common mission. Pete's impact was so tremendous that now, even 19 years later, we continue to pay homage to him and his commitment by sharing his passion and keeping firefighters combat ready. These two examples could not have been on further ends of the spectrum, but they shared a common thread. These two leaders had an unrelenting commitment to their mission. They put their ego aside to do what is right and left an impact. When I think about them, I come back to a mindset that can help all of us. I have been a student of Roman Stoics for years now because how straightforward and simplistic their proven beliefs were. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and many more I will not pronounce because I will 100% butcher their names. They all believed in one Latin phrase, memento mori. Simply put, you will die. Pretty morbid statement if you don't think about what it really means and what those two words are telling us. We know we will all die at some point. That is given. But this belief is not centered on the finality. It is focused on more what you do with this valuable time that is given to you. And it makes you ask yourself these two questions. If you died tomorrow, what have you done in this life you were given? And if your career ends tomorrow, what impact have you made? Did you focus on yourself and your ego, or did you operate as a steward of this profession and your craft, absorbing as much knowledge as possible, taking your experience and skills and imparting them on those that you lead to make them better? We are all flawed, and perhaps you were guilty of this selfish approach earlier in your career. We all were at some point. But now is the time for you to craft that narrative. Now is the time for you to think about the legacy you want and make an impact. Simply put, man only gets one life, and that comes with a beginning and an end. But history lasts forever. Brothers and sisters, we know what we do is inherently dangerous, and that every fire we go to may be the one that leads to an injury or our potential death. The fire does not assimilate to our manuals, our SOPs, or even our best laid plans. Never forget, the fire always gets a vote. I will repeat that again because it's so important. The fire always gets a vote. It is unrelenting in its challenge, unbiased in its hate, and we must meet this challenge with a mind full of knowledge gained from our history, a heart full of love and dedication for those we lead, a steadfast commitment to the mission we took an oath to uphold, a perseverance to always sharpening our axe, and finally, the courage to be unafraid. God bless our fire service, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
How about one more round of applause? That is why they have a wooden block for us to stand on. I think they're trying to tell me something that I'm short. But that's why I kept that close to my heart right there. You know, great speaker. Chief Shaw made some great points throughout his message. One that I really loved that he said was, you can't hide behind being lazy. Don't be lazy. That was an amazing point that he made there. So again, thank you so much, Chief Shaw, for that message. I would now like to invite everyone to look at the screens as we honor several people.
The South Carolina Firefighters Hall of Fame Award recognizes members which are known as trailblazers and are outstanding for their contributions to South Carolina's fire service. Ensuring the legacy of these individuals is important in preserving the association's and the state's history. Those who receive the honor have left a clear mark on the state's fire service and are recognizable by their peers at the state or regional level for their commitment and contributions. These persons have contributed endless hours, ideas, and implementations, and some ultimately their lives, in making South Carolina a better place to live. Individuals who receive the Hall of Fame Award are inducted into the South Carolina State Firefighters Association's Hall of Fame.
Mike Vinson was born on January 2nd, 1997 in Anderson, South Carolina. He is the only child of Philip and Christy Vinson. He graduated from Lawrence District 55 High School in 2014 and was an active member of the Future Farmers of America and successful in tractor driving competitions throughout high school. As a young child, Mike grew up around the fire service. He always had a great interest in firefighting and joined the Eckham Fire Department in the Explorer program when he turned 15. He began taking classes and joined as a volunteer when he turned 18 and later went on to lead the Explorer program through their training. Michael became a career firefighter with the Lawrence County Fire Department and worked part-time as a firefighter in the Clinton City Fire Department. Michael was a firefighter too and began taking specialized rescue classes such as rope rescue and hazmat. Michael had a strong desire to help his community and help others in need. Becoming a career firefighter was a dream come true for him. Mike had a huge heart and always loved life. He had a kind smile and cracked a joke for everyone. Please welcome to the stage the Vinson family to accept the Hall of Fame for Firefighter Vinson, 2024 Line of Duty Death. Landon Cale Body was a true, genuine soul who left a mark wherever he went. A native of Saluda, South Carolina, he grew up in Saluda County and spent most of his life there. Landon graduated from Blythewood High School in 2024, where he was a member of the Technical Honor Society, certified in OSHA, and a member of the National Society of High School Scholars. He was a faithful and active member of the Future Farmers of America, always having a love for the outdoors and agriculture. He was an avid hunter and fisherman, skills he learned from his grandfather. Since the age of 5 or 6 years old, he had a passion to serve others and wanted to become a firefighter. Landon joined the Circle Volunteer Fire Department at the age of 18. Always devoted and dedicated to any interest he had, Landon was more than proud to serve his community as a volunteer firefighter. If he was not serving others through his work, he was serving others in his community. Landon will never be forgotten for his heroic act of service during Hurricane Helene and the impact he left on so many lives. Please welcome to the stage the Body family to accept the Hall of Fame for Firefighter Body, 2024 Line of Duty Death. From a young age, Chad Satcher desired to serve others and his community. He was active in the Boy Scouts of America, earning the rank of Eagle Scout and Vigil Honor in the Order of the Arrow. After graduating from Batesburg-Leesville High School, he joined the Circle Fire Department in 1989. He faithfully served his community over the next 35 years, becoming fire chief in January of 2023. Tragically, on September 27th, 2024, Chief Satcher passed away when a tree fell in his fire truck as he and fellow firefighter Landon Cale Body responded to a structure fire during Hurricane Helene. His death has left a void in the hearts of many. Although Chad was a licensed plumber with the Derrick Plumbing for 32 years, his passion was firefighting. Chief Satcher received the Circle Fire Department's Fireman of the Year multiple times during his career. He was recognized as the Saluda County Fire Service Firefighter of the Year in 2017 and Officer of the Year in 2024. As a training officer, he enjoyed mentoring the next generation of firefighters and was committed to community safety, education, and served on the Saluda County Fire Board and Fire Prevention Committee. Whether you were a neighbor or a stranger, Chief Satcher was always willing to help. His spirit was gentle and steady, and he was a friend to all. He embodied the essence of a servant's heart. It's one of the greatest privileges of this role to honor those who have not only served our fire service with distinction, but whose legacy has helped shape the very foundation of who we are. Chief Malcolm Burns' story begins like a lot of ours. In 1995, Malcolm joined the St. George Fire Department as a volunteer. He rose through the ranks and ultimately became fire chief, leading with humility, strength, and a deep commitment to his community. In 2012, Malcolm helped usher in a new chapter for the fire service in our state when he was hired as deputy chief of the newly formed Dorchester County Fire Rescue. But Malcolm's influence goes far beyond his own department. During his tenure as president, his leadership helped guide us through challenges, strengthened our mission, and reminded us what it truly means to lead by example. Today we honor a man who never seeks the spotlight, but who leads with humility and likes to pass challenges on to the next president after him. It is my honor to introduce my friend, Hall of Fame inductee, Chief Malcolm Burns. Roger Means dedicated 43 years of his life to the fire service. For over 4 decades, Chief Means displayed an unwavering commitment to the people of Spartanburg County and the entire state of South Carolina. Chief Means' influence has touched every corner of our profession. He has trained, mentored, and led generations of firefighters. His leadership didn't just build careers, it built legacies. Chief Means was a founding member of both the Spartanburg County Hazardous Materials Team and the Fire Investigation Team. In 2018, his influence was permanently recognized when the Spartanburg County Emergency Services Academy dedicated their new burn building in his honor, now proudly named Roger L. Means Burn Facility. Chief Means has also played a major role in fire investigations statewide, building relationships with law enforcement agencies like SLED, and helping to introduce and expand the use of accelerant detection canines around South Carolina. For his lifetime of leadership, mentorship, innovation, and service, please join me in congratulating Battalion Chief Roger Means, inductee into the South Carolina State Firefighters Association Hall of Fame.
As stewards in the public trust, we must engage in active public information. Some of this can be done through internal means, but we must partner with local media. The Association's award for media shall be presented to a public media, television, radio, newspaper, magazine, or website for outstanding promotion of the fire service by presenting the fire service or departments in a positive manner. The action taken by the media should positively impact both the local fire department and our fire service and the public.
The media award is given to an individual or outlet that has gone above and beyond in supporting our mission to serve, protect, and inform. Local radio is important to the community. Just outside of Columbia and Newberry, WKDK has kept the public informed since 1946. For nearly 8 decades, they've been at the forefront, whether it's breaking news, high school sports, local politics, or community events. But more than that, they've been a critical partner to the Newberry Fire Department and the citizens they serve. WKDK host Jimmy Coggins always makes sure the Newberry Fire Department has a seat on the coffee hour when there's something important to share, whether it's a public safety initiative, recruitment drive, or emergency alert. When Hurricane Helene tore through Newberry in 2024, the city was without power, cell service was unreliable, and internet was down. But by Saturday morning, WKDK was back on the air. With a battery-powered radio or a car stereo, residents could hear the latest updates on recovery efforts, emergency instructions, and critical resources, all thanks to Jimmy and his team. Jimmy's voice is a steady, trusted presence in Newberry. He empowers residents and makes Newberry a safer, better place to live. Please join me in congratulating Jimmy Coggins, recipient of the Media Award. This Media Award recipient was instrumental in bringing to life a story that was nearly forgotten, yet shaped the future of fire safety across our nation. A Town on Fire is an hour-long documentary into the tragic Cleveland school fire of 1923, a tragedy that claimed 77 lives. Through producer Shay Winston's powerful and compelling storytelling, A Town on Fire explores not just the fire itself, but the broader cultural context, the long-lasting pain of the survivors and their families, and most importantly, the sweeping changes in building codes and fire safety laws that followed. Inspired in part by his own father's service as a firefighter and EMT in the Midlands, Shay traveled across the state, collecting never-before-heard stories, rare artifacts, and interviews with family members of the victims. He earned the trust of local communities, state leaders, and the fire service. Many people contributed to the success of this project, but it was Shay Winston's vision, dedication, and extraordinary storytelling that made it all possible. Please join me in congratulating Shay Winston, recipient of the Media Award.
No matter how hard we all work, we still must recognize the contributions of our citizens. They stand beside us and with us in accomplishing our goals. The Citizenship Award is bestowed upon an individual who may not be a member of the fire service, but has made significant contributions to the community or the fire service. Past recipients of the Citizenship Award were recognized for efforts in saving lives through education and helping further community risk reduction efforts.
This year's Citizenship Award is a recognition that celebrates extraordinary individuals who have gone above and beyond in service to our community. This year's recipient is one whose vision, leadership, and compassion have quite literally saved lives. As Myrtle Beach Fire Department's very first opioid program coordinator, Michelle Smith was handed an enormous challenge. What she created is nothing short of remarkable. Michelle has worked tirelessly to build one of the premier municipal overdose response programs in South Carolina. She hired peer support specialists, built a team, navigated city and state budgeting processes, purchased supplies, developed policies, secured vehicles, and partnered with police, nonprofits, and healthcare providers. She responded to overdoses in the field and even received a Departmental Unit Citation Award for her direct actions in saving a life. Michelle's leadership has changed more than just the numbers. She shifted the culture of how a city and even a fire department views addiction. Local governments across South Carolina have come to Myrtle Beach to learn from her, and more are replicating the very program she built. Please join me in congratulating Michelle Smith, recipient of the Citizenship Award. This year's Citizenship Award goes to Milliken & Company. Headquartered in Spartanburg, South Carolina, is a 160-year-old, completely vertical material science company with over 80 years of fire-resistant fabric expertise. Milliken is a global market leader in many industries and is proud to innovate solutions for the first responder community. With the launch of Assure, a non-PFAS and non-halogenated FR moisture barrier, in November 2024, Milliken became the first and only textile manufacturer to offer all 3 layers of structural turnout gear, all non-PFAS. Milliken offers fabric solutions for not only structural turnout gear, but also wildland, technical rescue, station wear, and EMS. David Eskew is the Senior Director of Sales in the Fire Service Division. David is a seasoned sales leader with nearly 25 years of experience in the textile manufacturing industry. For the past decade, he has focused on supporting the evolving needs of firefighters and first responders, leading sales strategy and growth for Milliken's fire service business. David has been instrumental in guiding Milliken's 2021 transition to a fully non-PFAS product portfolio, helping customers navigate this critical shift without compromising protection or performance. Dr. Shulong Lee, a research fellow, has 29 rewarding years at Milliken in the area of technology innovations. He is responsible for developing important new technologies in flame-resistant protective fabrics, airbag coatings, fleece fabrics, and odor-control textiles. He recently worked with NASA to develop an astronaut's undergarment FR fabric for the Artemis space programs. Dr. Lee holds multiple degrees and is also a registered patent agent, passing the U.S. Patent Bar exam in 2002. He is an inventor on 63 issued U.S. patents. Shulong serves on multiple ASTM and AATCC textile technical committees. It is my honor to welcome to the stage David Eskew and Dr. Shulong Lee of Milliken & Company for the 2025 Citizenship Award.
By resolution, the South Carolina State Firefighters Association would like to honor the distinguished service of our friend Sean Hamilton. Sean Hamilton has faithfully and selflessly dedicated over 25 years of exemplary service to the South Carolina Fire Service, consistently demonstrating commitment, integrity, and professionalism. Sean devoted a significant portion of his career to serving on South Carolina Task Force 1 and South Carolina Helicopter Aquatic Rescue Team, impacting communities in all 46 counties across the state. In the final 6 years of his career, Sean served with distinction as a program manager with both Task Force 1 and HART, where he was extremely instrumental in the development and sustainability of a nationally recognized Type 1 urban search and rescue team and elite helicopter aquatic rescue team. His dedication extended beyond the state borders through numerous deployments in response to natural disasters and emergencies across the nation, offering critical aid and demonstrating unwavering courage and leadership. Sean was recognized with multiple accolades for his outstanding service, including the esteemed Sikorsky Rescue Swimmer Award, reflecting his exceptional technical skill and valor. He pursued continuous professional growth, completing numerous college-level and South Carolina Fire Academy courses, and achieving full certification in all disciplines of urban search and rescue and helicopter rescue. Throughout his career, Sean epitomized the values of humility, service, and leadership, never seeking recognition, but instead leading by quiet, steadfast example, embodying the true spirit of a servant leader. And now, therefore, it be resolved that the South Carolina State Firefighters Association do hereby recognize and honor Sean Hamilton for his extraordinary contributions, profound impact on emergency services in South Carolina, and legacy of dedication to the safety and welfare of others. It further be resolved that this resolution be entered into the permanent record as a testament to the life and service of a remarkable public servant whose work will continue to inspire future generations. This is adopted June 12th, 2025, signed by President Arant. Please join me in welcoming the Hamilton family to the stage.
All right, so we're going to be moving into our business meeting portion. So I will officially call the business meeting to order. And then I would like to call to the podium Darren Player, our Elections Commission Chair.
Good morning. I'm Darren Player. I'm going to serve as the association's chair for the Elections Committee this year. Per our bylaws, I'm in receipt of the letters of intent of all our candidates for office. We'll have 2 candidates on the ballot for the office of 4th Vice President. Those names are Michael Regal, City of York Fire Department, Ross Vazin, Beaufort Port Royal Fire Department. In alphabetical order by last name, I now offer the podium for a maximum of 5 minutes to each candidate to address the voting members. Michael Regal will be the first to speak to you.
Good morning. It is truly an honor to stand before you today as a candidate for 4th Vice President of the South Carolina Firefighters Association. My fire service journey began in 2001 as a volunteer in Newberry County with the Fairview Volunteer Fire Department. Through dedication, continued education, and consistent training, I've built a comprehensive understanding of the fire department service and leadership. Today, I proudly serve as Fire Chief of the City of York Fire Department, a position I've held for the past 4 years. The role carries great responsibilities, but it has reinforced an essential truth. Our success doesn't rest on one individual. It depends on the strength of the team. The men and women of the fire service, and especially those here today, are the spokes that keep the wheel turning. As Chief, my job is to guide, support, and ensure that you have what you need to succeed. In everyday decisions I make, I try to live by one simple but powerful principle. Do the right thing, do the best you can, and always show your people you care. The mindset is what our fire service and this association deserves from its leaders. Beyond my day-to-day roles and responsibilities, I'm proud to serve the fire service in a few areas as a member of Task Force 1, the Strategic Planning Committee for the association, and also first Vice President of York County Fire Chiefs Association. If elected as your 4th Vice President, my platform focuses on 5 key priorities. These are your priorities as well, as I met with the membership the past few months. They matter to you, so they matter to me. An advocacy for every firefighter, ensuring that both volunteer and career firefighter have a unified and respected voice in policy, funding, and legislation. Mental health and wellness. Expand access to mental health and wellness and resources because no one in this profession should suffer in silence. Training and professional development. Promoting high-quality training, professional growth opportunities for all firefighters, preparing us to meet the challenges for tomorrow. Post-retirement insurance to bridge that gap between retirement and Medicare. And lastly, honoring our legacy, recognizing the pioneers of our profession while inspiring the next generation to lead with purpose and pride. As part of that final priority, I am proud to propose a cornerstone initiative for my candidacy, the Don Wilkins Trailblazer Award. I recently had the privilege of witnessing Instructor Don Wilkins receive the Order of the Palmetto, our state's highest civilian honor. For decades, Don has mentored, trained firefighters across the state of South Carolina, including myself. And true to form, even in a recent conversation, he was still offering me advice. This award will honor those who, like Don, light the way forward, individuals who lead with heart, guide with wisdom, and lift others along the way. Friends, I'm not running for a title. I'm running for a purpose to serve, to support, and lead with action, integrity, and unity. I respectfully ask for your support and your vote. Together, let's keep South Carolina moving forward, one firefighter, one department, and one tradition at a time. Thank you, stay safe, and make memories.
Good morning. My name is Ross Fazan, and I'm proud to stand in front of you today as a candidate for 4th Vice President of our great association. I'm the current Deputy Chief of Administration for the City of Beaufort, Town of Port Royal Fire Department, where I've had the honor of serving for the last 17 years. My time with our association goes back to 2014 when I graduated from Leadership Institute with current past President Malcolm Burns and current incoming President Pierce Womack. From that moment, I knew I wanted to become involved with our state's fire service. I was given the opportunity to serve on the Member Benefits Committee in 2015 and serve as the chair in 2020. Volunteering and helping with the South Carolina Burn Children's Fund has been one of the highlights of my career. There's no greater joy than seeing a child that has been burned and gone through the trauma of a burn injury than catching his first fish at camp with the biggest smile on his face. I've had the honor of being a camp counselor for the South Carolina Burn Children's Fund Burn Camp for the last 15 years, past president, region board member, and the current treasurer. Camp is funded with the help of every single fire department in this state. We collect aluminum cans around the state. I'm sure most of you guys have trailers at your fire departments, and that's how we send each child to burn camp for free. I can promise you, it's the hardest week of the year, but it brings me the biggest joy. It's the most rewarding week of the year. Throughout my campaign this year, I've been using one word that I truly believe in. That word is acknowledge. I stole this word from a gentleman named Kevin Hines, also known as the San Francisco Jumper. He is currently a mental health advocate and a motivational speaker. He was a businessman in San Francisco, and he took public transportation each day on the train system to San Francisco. He just wanted one person to acknowledge him. He was having a rough day. He wanted one person to tell him hi, one person to tell him good morning or even smile at him. Nobody that day did, so he jumped off the bridge. By the grace of God, he lived. Everybody in this room wants to be acknowledged. Everybody in this room wants their fire department to be acknowledged. I'm here to tell you today that I acknowledge you, our membership, and our fire departments. And I will acknowledge your wants, needs, and goals, and work to accomplish those goals as a team and as a state's fire service. The other night at dinner, President Arant said, "Always wake up and give one thing you are grateful for." Today, I'm grateful for all of you guys in this room. You guys are here bettering yourself and bettering your fire departments for our great association. Thank you, enjoy your week, and enjoy your fire rescue conference.
Okay, we're voting to fill the 4th Vice President position this year, so you'll vote for one person on the ballot, which was emailed to all voting members on May the 30th, 2025, from SurveyMonkey, the digital platform that's used for the voting for our association. All voting is done online through SurveyMonkey using the email account that is listed in the association's member management system, the database for the association. If you were chosen by your fire chief as a voting member, you received an email ballot with information on voting process, candidates are running, and a link to the candidate's letter of intent. Follow the link in the email to cast your vote. Voting opened on Friday, May 30, 2025, and will close on Friday, June 13th, 2025 at 12 p.m. noon. If you have not received your voting ballot email and you have confirmed with your fire department that you are a voting member, please see an association staff member at the check-in booth. In the event of a tie vote, a new email will be sent to that same email address for a 24-hour runoff election. Be aware of this potential and watch your email accounts tomorrow after 12 noon if required. If you have any questions, please see me or the association's Deputy Director, Brick Lewis, after this session. I will offer the results of the election first to the President Arant, shortly after noon on Friday. Then the President will present the results to the candidates, then to the general membership at our transfer of command ceremony on Saturday evening. Thank you, Mr. President. That's my report.
I don't think I need that. Good morning. Appreciate the opportunity to just share a little bit of the highlights of what our team has been doing to serve and support your team. And so just bear with me for a few highlights from the different programs that State Fire is committed to doing. First of all, raise your hand if you received a V-Safe grant. Yeah, a fair amount of you. That's great. In 2025, 396 grants were awarded to eligible fire departments in 44 different counties out of the 46. Each grant was for $14,050, totaling $5.56 million in grants in 2025. Since 2017, we've awarded $25.1 million in grants to eligible fire departments through the V-Safe program. So we're really, really excited to continue to be able to support you, and we appreciate the legislature's support of that program. The Firefighter Cancer Healthcare Benefit Plan continues to perform well and serve our firefighters. We will have a premium increase beginning in July of this year, and we're working on the solicitation documents with the state's Division of Procurement Services for the next 5-year policy contract that actually begin next July. We'll close out the first 5 years of the program. It's hard to believe it's been that long. Some updates from the Fire Academy. We are closing out our pilot recruit EMT class. In fact, they're going to graduate on June the 26th. And of course, we're evaluating lessons learned and feedback from that pilot to determine how to best conduct these programs in the future, including how often to hold them and how we best hold them in conjunction with our resident recruit schools. We also, from the Fire Academy standpoint, have several technology projects that are in the works to improve workflows and efficiencies, to improve the end user experience for you, but also improve efficiency and workflow for our team. And that includes a facility and dorm reservation system that we're going to be launching here in the next couple weeks in phase 1. Automatic prerequisite checks, which is going to really improve workflow and efficiency for our staff. And then electronic course evaluations and course packages. Those are just a few of the projects from a technology standpoint impacting the Fire Academy. From the Office of State Fire Marshal, I want to remind you that we will be recognizing 207 fire departments who are receiving FireSafe South Carolina community designations at 3:30 p.m. this Friday, tomorrow. Here in the big room, so make sure that you're here. Remember to report your fire fatalities to us as soon as possible. We want to come to your fire scene, both to document the circumstances of the fires and the fire fatality, but also, and more importantly, to build relationships with your fire department. From an emergency response perspective, we're coming off of, and it seems like every year I stand up here and talk about emergency response, we're coming off of another busiest year. But this past year has been the busiest year yet for our emergency response programs. We had a lot of largest and firsts over this past year. Another record-breaking hurricane season, with Hurricane Helene exceeding the damage cost and the number of fatalities from Hurricane Hugo in 1989, which made landfall in South Carolina as a Category 4 storm. Between Hurricanes Debbie and Helene this past year, we were impacted by the number 2 and number 3 highest rainfall amounts associated with a landfalling storm just within 6 weeks of each other. We've also come off a very active wildland fire season with a large firefighter mobilization activation for the Covington Drive fire here in Horry County. This was the first deployment of State Fire's new mobile command center, and we're really, really proud to have that, and it's been a great tool, been really, really beneficial on the incidents that we've been able to respond to. And then followed just 2 weeks after the Covington Drive fire was the Table Rocks Complex fire, which was the largest firefighter mobilization response since the program started. Ultimately, I want to thank you because you stepped up, you sent help to your neighbors when it was needed, and firefighter mobilization and our emergency response programs just simply wouldn't be what they are without you. So thank you for continuing to support that. We're going to need your support certainly this hurricane season, going into the fall with probably another wildland season that's going to be challenging. But South Carolina firefighter mobilization and our emergency response programs are some of the most successful and effective statewide mutual aid programs in the nation, and it's because of you. I want to make sure that you come by our booth to visit both the State Fire booth, which is in the exhibit hall, the FireSafe South Carolina booth, which is in the hallway, and see our team. We want to see you. Ultimately, State Fire's mission is to be the focal point for service and support to save lives and property. And that means that our team is focused on what we do, providing service and support. We're focused on why we do it, to save lives and property. And we're focused on who we do it for, who we serve and support, and that's you. You are central to our mission, our team, and why we exist. You are the who behind our why. And so thank you. I want to thank our team because, you know, what's important, not only just what we do, why we do it, and who we do it for, but we're blessed by who we get to do it with. So I want to thank our State Fire team who, some of them are in the command post, some of them are out in the exhibit hall, some of them are in this room. I want to thank them for what they do every day to serve and support you. So thank you for your continued support of our team and our mission as we support your team and your mission. Together, we, the state's fire service, do make a great team. Thank you.
Some of us aren't as tall as Chief Jones is. I like to mimic what Chief Jones said. Huge thank you to State Fire, the State Fire Marshal's Office, and the state's incident support team. They're doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and we do greatly appreciate everything that they are doing. So again, thank you, Chief Jones, for what you're doing. As stated in the association bylaws, all regularly organized fire department applications will be presented to the membership at the next annual meeting. This year, we have a total of 5 departments requesting membership this year. Those 5 departments are the Bethia Volunteer Fire Department, Abbeville County, Callison Fire Department, Greenwood County, Dillon County Station Number 4, Dillon County, Eddytown Volunteer Fire Department, Berkeley County, and then Plum Branch, McCormick County. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to accept the 5 departments back into the association membership. All right, got a second? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, it passes. Thank you.
I don't have a report to give this morning. We're going to try to do a Lee Greenwood song. If tomorrow all the things were gone I worked for all my life, and I had to start again, just my children and my wife. I thank my God above to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men
I've had the distinct pleasure of listening to them sing for the past 4 years when we go to their conference, and it is absolutely beautiful. Backstage, Executive Director Oberman asked me if I wanted to sing with them. I said, absolutely not. We want to keep people, not run them off. So thank you to those two for singing for us today. At this time, I'd also like to recognize the North Carolina State Firefighters Association. We have them in attendance today. If you'll please stand to be recognized. Again, I've been very fortunate over the past 4 years. I've been able to go to their conference that they have in August, and it's one of the most favorite trips that I look forward to every year going to. So thank you for the relationship that we're fostering and building, and I'm looking forward to August when we come up and see y'all. The next speaker that we have coming up, she's absolutely amazing at collecting and analyzing data that pertains to the fire service, and then she has a unique way of that data is dumbing it down for someone like me who is not very smart, and then able to present it to where I can actually understand what it is. So it is my honor to give the bio for our next speaker, who is Dr. Janke. Dr. Janke is a director and a senior scientist with the Center for Fire, Rescue, and EMS Health Research within NDRI USA Incorporated. She also serves as the president of the Board of Science to the station, a Health and Wellness Alliance, which is an organization focused on making empirical evidence more accessible and usable for frontline personnel. With nearly 2 decades of research experience on firefighters, she has been the principal investigator on several national studies and dozens of studies as a co-investigator. Dr. Janke has more than 100 publications to her credit. Her work has focused on a range of health concerns, including the health of women firefighters, behavioral health, risk of injury, cancer, cardiovascular risk factors, and substance use, with the funding from FEMA, the National Institutes of Health, and other foundations. She has received several recognitions for her work, including the John Granado Excellence in Fire Service Research Award, the President's Award from the International Association of Fire Chiefs, and the Glatfelter Distinguished Service Award from the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Sarah Janke to the stage.
Thank you. Oh, the walk-on music is amazing. But I have to say that now I feel like I have to overcome that bio because I sound really boring when they give the long bio about what I do. I try to get people to just say, this is Sarah and she's a nerd and she's obsessed with firefighter health, because I think that's probably the best description. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to talk about health and wellness, and I appreciate that this is something that they wanted to put on the main stage, because as exciting as I think firefighter health and wellness and science is, not everyone agrees with me. Although someone recently said, oh, you guys are making science cool again. I want to be clear, science has always been cool. It's always exciting, but sometimes they think that it gets lost in translation. Because as scientists, our job is traditionally has been to just publish the work, to put out to the universe what we find. And that's usually in a pretty boring way. And about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, FEMA started asking, like, how does what you do make a difference in the fire service? And I'm like, oh, it has all these implications, policies, and they're like, but how does it make a difference to Jane or Jill or Jack on Engine 2? And I'm like, well, that's a little bit harder. So I'm going to share some of the research that's going on by my team and by other teams across the country, and hopefully by the time I'm done, you'll also be like, science, that is amazing. Yes? Yes? They also told me last night, they said, you know, Dan's going to present before you. And Frank Lieb, if you know him, he was up at FDNY as chief of safety. And he always says, we need to do more of a trail mix approach to introducing health and wellness. So you got to have like your peanut M&Ms and then also feed them the raisins. So I think I'm the raisin to Dan's peanut M&Ms, but I'll do my best. And raisins aren't bad either, right? Can I get an amen? Thank you. Thank you. All right. So to kick it off, we're going to start with really fun and exciting topics like cancer. One of the things that we need to talk, there are three big things that we talk about in the fire service, right? Cancer, cardiovascular disease, and mental health. And the great part about it is that they're all actually interrelated. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and talk about kind of where are we at in terms of the science on these different topics. 80% of research that's been done, between 80 and 85% of the research that's been done on firefighter health has only been done in the last 15 years. So we know more about what firefighters are faced with than ever before. The other great news to that is we also know how to prevent the things that we have long been struggling with. So more research is always needed. We say that in every publication, and it's partly just job security. Because if more research isn't needed, I don't have a job. So bear with me. What we know about cancer, not surprising that we see that it is an increased risk in the fire service, but we now know why we're seeing some of those risks. If you look at the exposures of what firefighters are exposed to on the fire ground, it's what we call a toxic soup of known and unknown carcinogens. Good news, a lot of these are ones that we've been able to measure. Bad news is they're all on the fire ground. At any given fire, you find relatively increased risks of most of these carcinogens. Now, one of the challenges is that particularly when the air appears clear, that's when you have the ultrafine particulates, and we also see a short duration but high intensity, which is believed to be particularly dangerous. We call it when the air is clear. What would you call it? Overhaul, right? And we used to think, and 100% on board with it, this was a good thing to do at the time, that, if we use the four chemical or the four gas monitor, we know when the air is clear. Now, you saw the list of carcinogens that were there. It's more than 4. So my challenge to you in terms of, as I talk through kind of what we're learning, I'm going to also talk about some of the things that we can do about it. One thing that everyone should be doing is staying on air from the time they get off the truck to the time they get off to get back on, including during overhaul. And I know that sucks, and I'm sorry to have to say that, but we know that particularly when the air appears clear, even if those 4 gases are not there and not present and not pinging on your monitor, that they're actually still in the other chemicals could be in the air. So the other thing we need to pay attention to is that there are several routes of exposure when we look at the carcinogens on the fire ground. So it's inhalation, which makes sense, which is why I'm saying stay on air. But it's also dermal absorption. Like, you think about the last time you got done with a really amazing, disgusting fire and you pulled your gear off, how white was your t-shirt afterwards? How dirty were your pants? Or your pants and your legs. So we know that the dermal absorption is an issue. We also know that there's that secondary exposure from contaminated gear. This is where we talk about that you need to be bagging your gear after every fire. I have been told more than once to suggest that that be done in clear trash bags if you're using clear trash bags, because more than one department has accidentally thrown away their gear in black trash bags. I highly recommend not doing that. But making sure that you are staying as clean and keeping as many carcinogens on the fire ground as you can. Because it's very easy to get back on the truck, spread those carcinogens, take them back with you to the station, or take them back with you to your home, particularly if you're a volunteer. We also know that based on some research that's gone on out of University of Illinois, Gavin Horn and Denise Smith did some work and found that gear does off-gas for approximately 15 minutes afterwards. So don't put it away right away. Let it off-gas, but do the gross decon on the fire ground. Use the wipes. We know that decreases carcinogens on the skin between 64 and 84%. I'm full of fun numbers, right? That's my nerd laugh. And one of the challenges that we have, particularly when we talk to, whether we're talking to presumption cases or talking to city managers, talking about risks, is that people will say, but they have PPE. Like, that's not a risk because they already have if they're wearing their gear appropriately. So Jeff Stoll did some work with IAFF and looked at that very question. and found that gear is not designed, gear has not traditionally been designed, although there is some work doing particulate blocking gear, but gear has not traditionally been designed to keep carcinogens out. So it's designed so you can go into a fire so you don't die of the heat, but it's not designed to keep the carcinogens out. So that work by Jeff Stoll, they basically put a firefighter in full gear, completely outfitted the way he was supposed to be, including a hood, and they put an ultrafine particulate on him that mimicked what you see in carcinogen exposure. And they put him under this blue light to see where the carcinogens were getting in. And what you'll notice on the pictures is that the spots it's getting in, where it's around the neck, anywhere where there's an interface, and wrist. Now the challenge, like feel your neck a little bit. That's a thin skin. If you're me, it's a little wrinkly, but it's a thin skin up there. Wrist is a thin skin. So that's where you're going to get specific exposures we should be worried about. Yes, particulate blocking gear is on its way. There are a lot of groups doing work with that. You have to also be careful because you don't want to raise your core body temperature too much by totally encapsulating someone. But those are the reasons that gross decon on the fire ground, washing off after a fire, getting, scrubbing down, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's a bucket from Home Depot, soap and water and a brush, right? Now, we talked about the carcinogens that came through. There are other risks, and one of them I'm going to talk about in a minute is sleep. But there are a lot of other risk factors that we see in the fire service that we see increased rates of, and that we need to also be paying attention to as exposures. But the compilation of those, what we know, is that firefighters in general are at increased risk for cancer. General population, 40% of people are going to be diagnosed with cancer. Fire service, it's about 9% higher for firefighters that they're going to get cancer, and about 14% higher that they might die from it, that they will die from it, not might. Now, why would those numbers not be the same? I'm going to give you a couple reasons, and the first one is going to shock you. Ready? Firefighters don't like to go to the doctor. What? So there are some things as we talk through education and awareness and what we should be talking to our firefighters about in terms of cancer prevention. One of the things we should be talking about is paying attention to your own health. There's a great program called Detect Together out of Massachusetts. And they've got this 3-step detect, and it's freely available to the fire service. First one is know you're great, know what your normal health is like, pay attention to subtle signs that change, so anything that is abnormal for you, and some things are abnormal for everyone, like blood in your stools. Pay attention to that, and if it lasts for more than 2 weeks, go talk to your doctor. And they've got some great resources on how to talk to your doctor. But one of the things that we do see with firefighters is y'all can wait. Oh, did you see I just went Southern? You guys say y'all, right? Yeah. Y'all. You're really bad at paying attention to your own health. You're fantastic at helping other people, but you're horrible about making yourself a priority. So we got to start talking about that, because that's one of the reasons that we're seeing firefighters die at a higher rate than they are diagnosed. Another thing is we do know from research out of Florida that firefighters tend to get cancer a little bit earlier than the general population. And when otherwise healthy people get cancer, you see instead of that slow, steady decline with cancer development, you'll see kind of they fall off a cliff in terms of health and in terms of their health. So we need to do that faster. Another thing that we need to be cautious of, and I put the number up there, 1 in 204, 204-fold increase. I never present that without putting it in context. That was a Kitsap, Washington report, EFO report, and it looked at a really high rate of cancer among the offspring of firefighters in that department. That is not a number that's generalizable to everyone, but I do think that it gives us some interesting pilot data that we need to start looking at the outcomes the offspring of firefighters have. So our team published with NIOSH from a national study looking at the offspring of male firefighters, and we found an increased risk of several different birth defects. I know, I can see the look on your face, and I had that same look when we analyzed that data. Now, we haven't studied the offspring of women in the fire service, and we haven't looked at other outcomes beyond that. But mechanistically, what we do think is that there's a possibility that firefighters, both male and female, because of all their exposures, might have higher risks of things like autism spectrum disorders and attention deficit disorder. More research is needed job security, and it's an important question. So I just raised that not to scare you, but kind of to scare you, because the way we prevent that is the same way we prevent cancer. So it's the cleaning, it's the keeping clean gear, it's the gross decon, it's the shower within the hour, it's washing your hoods on Sunday, all those things. Those are going to be the same things. The same things that are cancer prevention are also child health outcome protecting. So if you weren't motivated by your own cancer, you're welcome. Just add something else to the list. Now, the research on cancer and firefighters has come so far over the last 15 years that the International Agency for Research on Cancer now considers firefighting in and of itself as an exposure to be a group 1 carcinogen, so a known carcinogen to humans, which is huge. You know, when you hear in the news something is a known carcinogen to humans or a possible carcinogen to humans, the reason they can say that, I don't know why I keep standing in front of this microphone when I have one attached to my face. Probably because I almost fall off the block, but I'm safe. I'm in a room full of, I can walk. Oh, stop. Oh my God, that's so good. I'm really bad at standing still and I keep almost falling off of that. So I'm smart in some ways, but not in all ways. Okay, I feel so much better now. Whew. Back to my talk, sorry. I also have my own attention deficit, but I was actually raised by a firefighter, so it would all make sense. So IARC, if something is a known carcinogen to humans, it means that the world's experts on an exposure have come together in France, reviewed all the literature to date on that topic and said either the literature supports that this is an exposure that's a carcinogen, or this doesn't support it, or doesn't support it yet. So that's when you hear something's a probable carcinogen or a possible carcinogen, that's what those classifications mean. So in 2010, the world's experts on firefighter health and exposures got together and said, hey, we think cancer is a possible carcinogen. So 2010, they classified it that way. They came back because so much research has been done in the last 15 years that they were able to repool those folks, put them together, said, we're going to look at all the literature on this topic. And they found that there were 5 mechanisms. Now, there are only 6 mechanisms that they evaluate, and there are very few occupations that they evaluate. So painting's one of them, firefighting, and a few others, but it's very rare for an occupation in and of itself to be considered a carcinogen or to even be evaluated as one. But what we know is that the mechanisms, so it's things like genotoxicity and epigenetic changes, that means that it doesn't change the genes you're born with, but it changes what's turned off and on. That's related to firefighting. We also know that chronic inflammation, which is the same thing that we know about what puts you at risk for cardiovascular disease and cardiovascular events, are some of the things that we know are related to cancer development. So some key pieces here. They said sufficient evidence for mesothelioma and bladder cancer. So there was enough literature and it was consistent enough that they were able to say those had sufficient evidence. The limited evidence, colon, prostate, testicular, melanoma, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, means more research is needed. Now, just because there's not one of the cancers on the list doesn't mean that it's not related to firefighting. It means we don't have enough research to say with scientific certainty. That's like the highest level of certainty in terms of risk that we get. We don't have those numbers yet. More research is needed. An important thing there, though, look at the little white, if you can put that down, the white box on the second one down is the why we think this happens. And it's an article, combustion products, diesel exhaust, building materials, asbestos, chemicals, shift work. I don't want to give away the excitement of later in the presentation. I know I'm excited, but we're going to talk about sleep and shift work. And that really is one of the things that we have to start addressing in the fire service, because it's one of the things that I think is driving some of the health outcomes that we're seeing in firefighters that we're concerned about. Pretty cool in terms of science, pretty sad in terms of exposures. But there's so much that you can do about it, right? And I think sometimes the challenge with what we see and when we talk about cancer is we get this fatalistic, like, oh, we're all going to die of cancer. No, not everyone's going to die of cancer, but there are things you can do to make sure that you're one of those folks that doesn't, okay? Now, who's excited about science? We're going to need to work on that, guys and gals. So it's good news. It's good news. It's bad news about the exposures, but it's good news that there's stuff we can do about it. Now we're going to switch, talk about cardiovascular disease, because if you weren't excited about cancer, cardiovascular disease might be your topic. What we know, and this is from 2006, but we haven't made much progress, leading cause of on-duty death, so death that occurs while on the job and or within 12 hours, leading cause is cardiovascular events. About 50 a year, a little bit lower the last few years. I think we've been making some progress. But for every on-duty death, we see an approximate 17 on-duty cardiovascular events that aren't recorded because they're not deaths. So people who have a heart attack. So really the number when we're talking about the scope of this issue is 50 times 17 plus 50. So not a tiny number. And why would we see that? Why do we think that's happening so often on duty? And why is it a higher rate than on many other occupations? Because my job sitting behind a desk and typing things all day is not as strenuous as your job when you go into a fire. So if you think about what happens when you go into a fire, it is the perfect storm. Like, you could not create a more perfect storm for a cardiovascular event in terms of what's going on in your body physiologically. You have the heat stress. You're in a hot environment and you're in encapsulated clothing. I said we don't have a lot of resources on carcinogen blocking gear yet. That's because we can't increase our core body temperature more than it's already being increased. So there's always this trade-off, because that will actually have some implications in terms of the way your heart works, the way your blood works, right? Your coagulatory factor. We also know that it activates your sympathetic nervous system when you go in. So you have this cardiovascular strain that's heart rate, increased heart rate, stroke volume, and increased oxygen consumption. So it's not surprising that if you look at your day at the fire station and your day and night at the fire station and your risk for when you're most likely to have a heart attack or a cardiovascular event, it's not when you're sitting around the station, right? It's when you are going to a call, it's when you're returning from a call. That risk, 12 to 136 times more likely, that's the risk that you have compared to when you're just at the station eating lunch or dinner to have a cardiovascular event. Because it is putting your body in the maximum amount of stress that a body can endure and saying, work right now. But also, there's an increased risk from the time you leave the station because the tones drop, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, the tones drop and your body goes, oh shit, we're going to a fire. Oh, I'm trying to clean up my language. It's not working well, but I'm doing my best. So we're looking at 3 to 14 times going to a call, 2 to 11 times more likely coming back from a call, but even during overhaul, you're 3 to 7 times more likely to have a cardiovascular event. So that's a pretty big deal. It's also why we have to pay more attention to health and wellness for firefighters. I think it's harder to be healthy as a firefighter than it is for the general population, but I also think it's more important. And when I say that, I'm talking about everything from fitness and nutrition. I'll talk about kind of my tips for being a healthy firefighter. But we know, I can put myself into a high-stress situation like at the gym, but it's nothing compared to what we put our firefighters in on the daily when they go to work, when they respond to calls. And even if it's not a fire, that adrenaline jump of the tones dropping, whether it's a fire or not, has significant impact. We know the physiological response to firefighting. No part of your body is sitting back. No system in your body is sitting back going like, ooh, let's just rest here. No. Your entire body, whether it's your respiratory system, your metabolic system, your nervous system, even psychological, right? Everything is on high alert because you're out there doing that hard work. This study from Denise Smith, I think, is amazing. She just looked at heart rate increases at rest. On average, firefighters have a resting heart rate of 70 beats per minute. Look at when they're in a fire, 192 beats per minute. You cannot, even if you were like a professional athlete, you can't stress your body that way. Imagine professional athletes doing that job, but actually it would be kind of cool, right? Doing it in flames and bunker gear, playing football, rugby, or whatever your favorite sport is. But we don't do that because we don't put people in that level of stress without a very good reason, and trying to save lives and property is a pretty good reason. So, cancer, cardiovascular disease. Third one we often talk about as being important is mental health. So there's good and bad here. I think actually more good than bad, but we do have to talk about the mental health impact of being in the fire service. And traditionally, we would think of it as, it's a stressful job, particularly those big events. right? You go to 9/11, you're at Oklahoma City bombing. There's certain events, and those very specific events are what's going to cause people to struggle. Research has shown that not to be true. In fact, when we talk to firefighters, absolutely, the big events are stressful. But what they talked about more was the repeated exposure to trauma. The having to show up to everyone's worst day is a stress in and of itself. The interesting thing about it is sometimes what bothers me is not going to bother you, and that's okay. Sometimes what bothers you is not going to bother me. Sometimes what bothers me today didn't bother me yesterday. And that's all sorts of different things, right? It's where I'm at in my life. It's who I know. It's who I've seen code recently. If I lost my grandpa, maybe this code bothers me, where the 722 codes that I ran before that didn't bother me. So it is that repeated exposure to everyone's worst day and how it shifts the way you look at the world. There's also the acute exposures. Yes, we do see in the literature, and I'll share numbers on post-traumatic stress rates later. One of the highest rates in the literature was post-Oklahoma City bombing a year later. Now, obviously stressful, right? Obviously a challenge. At the same time, that was at a time where we did not have things like peer support programs and behavioral health programs. So they sent the Oklahoma City folks to respond to that, and then it was like, okay, now go back to work. So now we know better. I was just up in DC talking about doing an after action about when the plane crash happened. And they were immediately on board with making sure that people were supported, felt like they had resources, felt like they had had people to reach out to if it was bothering them. So I think we won't see the rates of post-traumatic stress there that we saw in Oklahoma City. We also know that there's the environmental exposures, and I'll talk in a second. I keep saying this so you'll get excited for the next slides. But we do know that the environment that you work in has an impact. If you work in one of the departments that is there are fire departments out there that are kind of toxic environments. There are people who are not great bosses. I know that's shocking, but they can cause stress just as much. The crew you're with, if you're with a crew that you don't feel connected to and you're expected to do life-saving things with crews that you don't feel connected to, that's a challenge, and that can really impact your mental health. There's injury and disability, both the risk of getting injured, and we've started to talk about what do we do with people when they're separated from service or they have to go on light duty? Are we still taking care of them? Is the peer team still checking in? Or once you're out the door, you just out the door? They shouldn't be, because those are the folks who really need some support. There's also the home life stressors, and on this one I say, I know, and I have evidence to back it up, again with the nerd laugh. Being in the fire service and responding to what you respond to changes what you see as really important. I eloquently call it the give a shit meter. Like, how many times have you said to your family, if the house isn't on fire or is the house on fire, is anyone dead? And I did share yesterday in my presentation, or my talk, that my family, we did catch the house on fire twice when my dad was gone. But if you are running and seeing horrible things and running these awful calls, and then you get home and your kid's upset about a breakup from a high school boyfriend or girlfriend, like, that's not really, you're like, well, at least they're not dead. But to them, that's a huge issue. And how do you not see this as important? And you're like, well, because they're not dead. I do think that that's where we see some of the friction when we start talking about families. Is that it just adjusts what you see as important. It's not surprising that we see rates that are relatively high compared to the general population of things like depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress, and suicidal ideation. We also see substance use and abuse relatively high in the fire service. And I'm going to talk about alcohol use completely not with no judgment, but also would encourage after this conference, I think we've just set Monday as the goal date, to really kind of think about how much you're drinking and how much that plays into everything else. I do hear that there's fun events planned here, so let's not worry about it right now. But on Monday's to-do list, we're going to talk about that and the impacts that might have around other things. Now, I mentioned that chemical exposures could cause epigenetic changes. So can chronic occupational stress. So being in a situation where you're constant fight or flight can actually change the way your genes react with the environment. On the other side of that, we see mental health impacting risk for cancer and cardiovascular disease. That chronic inflammation I talked about that was related to cancer can come from chronic stress. Same with cancer and cardiovascular disease. The other side of this is resilience and post-traumatic growth. And I think we don't give that enough credit in the fire service. I think the fact, and I'm not going to ask you to think about your worst calls right now because we're trying to have a good time and talk about science, but if you think about the really bad calls and think about what you see and do and how much of that doesn't bother you is a testament to what's so right about the fire service. It's a testament to what's so right about firefighters. That dark humor, you know, there's always a line, several shades of gray there, I think 49. But we do have to think through, like, when does it cross the line? When does, but there's a lot that doesn't. There's a lot that we actually are doing in the fire service that's resilient, that's post-traumatic growth, that you see really bad things, and your take-home from that is, man, I want to hug my kids harder. Wow, I'm so lucky. So there's so many good things. Now, the other piece that I think I personally have underestimated in the past is the impact of sleep, which overlays and underlays every other risk that we're looking at. Morbidity, mortality, just the way you operate on the day-to-day. I told you I was going to give you rates and data, and I don't want to disappoint, so here we go. What we see with rates of depression in the literature for the fire service is anywhere between 12 and 27% say that they're in the range of concern in the last 30 days when we ask about symptomology. Typically, general population is less than 10% for that number when you ask 30-day prevalence. Post-traumatic stress, similar. Range in the literature, there's actually a study that came out recently that put the number right around 5 or 6%, but it can be relatively high compared to the general population. But one of the things we have to keep in mind when we look at post-traumatic stress in the fire service compared to general population is most people in the general population don't ever see what you see on a daily basis. So criterion A for post-traumatic stress disorder, if you were going to get diagnosed with that, is, have you been exposed to a situation that threatened your life or someone else's? Some people never have that in their life. You saw it, 2 shifts in on the job, right? So criterion A is already something that everyone can say, yes, we've got that ticked off. So I do think it's not surprising that we see rates a little bit higher. Those traumas that you're exposed to are stored. You have a file of them in your brain. How well they're stored, I think, has a lot to do with how you sleep and if you're sleeping. But it's also not surprising that we have conversations and have been having conversations about suicidal ideation. Whether the rates of suicide are similar to the general population for a similar population type group is still a little bit up in the air. But I will say IAFF and one of the news outlets, but I still cannot remember which one, so it's whichever is your favorite, so you find credibility with it, surveyed members, and 7,000 firefighters responded. More than a quarter said that they had struggled with substance abuse. 59% family and relationship problems. Again, because probably your give a shit meter is a little bit different than what your kids and your spouse's is. 65% said they've been haunted by memories of bad calls, so it's normal, basically, that's gonna happen, and 19% said that they'd had thoughts of suicide. Now, I will say, when I give this data, I like to say, remember that this is 7,000 firefighters who saw a survey about mental health and chose to take it. So is it really 1 in 5 of your colleagues is considered suicide? I don't know the answer to that. We don't have the data on that. But I can say if 7,000 members of IAFF thought it was important enough to click on that link and share that they were struggling, these are topics that we've got to be talking about, right? Whether it's in line with general population or not, we can age and gender standardize it. There are so many nerdy conversations and debates that go on about that. I don't think it matters. I think it's something that needs to be a topic of conversation. Another thing that we see contributing to and being used as a coping mechanism for mental health is binge drinking. Binge drinking and heavy drinking. Again, I say this with no judgment. I had a lovely glass of wine last night. Thank you very much. But we do have to be talking about it when we start looking at the rates of what we're seeing in terms of consumption in the fire service. When I say binge drinking, when I said binge drinking when we did focus groups on this, there was not a group that I gave the definition that people didn't start laughing because it seems so low. 4 or more drinks for women in a 2-hour period, 5 or more drinks for men. in a 2-hour period or an occasion. Basically, at what point do you start getting tipsy? General population numbers, most people, most groups are not that high in terms of consistent binge drinking. What do we see in the fire service? Very consistent binge drinking. So we see heavy drinking, about 44.7% of firefighters report that in the last 30 days. Binge drinking, about half. We replicated this in multiple studies and found similar results. Other research teams across the country have done the same. Now, is that bad? Well, I mean, yes, health-wise it is. Because that average intake, 3.5 drinks, that's also where you see a pretty significant increase for cancers. So as a risk factor for cancer, alcohol is one of them. You also see it adding a significant amount of calories. When firefighters drink, they drink 551 kilocalories. Guess how many calories that is consistent, or if you were going to match it to something else? It's a Big Mac's worth of calories. So if you're eating a Big Mac while drinking 55.1 kilocalories of alcohol, that's not good for your health. And how often do you accidentally, or like just in the course of an evening, eat a Big Mac and not think about it in terms of what you're consuming with calories? You don't, but you can easily consume 551 kilocalories of alcohol without giving it a second thought. So it's something we need to be talking about. It's something in the research team that I work with, when we started talking about alcohol, they're like, well, we just need to look at, how do we get firefighters to abstain from alcohol? And that's where I was like, well, if you want a study that's going to fail, do that. Because we're not going to get rid of alcohol in the fire service. And I don't think that we need to be pushing for that. I think that's one step too far. But I do think we have to start thinking about rethinking how we're drinking, when we're drinking, and why we're drinking. When we started doing qualitative work, I would ask people, because people would say, I think we drink the same amount as the bankers and everyone else. I see them at the bar too. Well, I have the data to tell you, no, that's not true. In fact, when the military came out with their rates, and this was literally front page news, that the rates of binge drinking in the military were so high, it was at 37%. I was like, losers, we are so much higher than that in the fire service. Not that they're losers. You know what I meant. It was, never mind. We're going to move on past that. But we are using it, and why? What are the reasons? We did some qualitative work around this, and it's some stuff that makes sense, right? Particularly if you're in the career fire service and you're off the same 20 days as the other people on your crew, but everyone else between 8 and 5 is doing that boring other work stuff. You get together and you hang out, right? And you often hang out around alcohol. How often are you getting together at fire department parties and things like that, where alcohol is kind of a central piece? It is a social lubricant, and it gives us permission to maybe talk about how we feel about things. When I asked people early on, one of my favorite focus groups, we're talking about alcohol, and I said, so do you think, he was talking about how much they drink, and I said, do you think that alcohol is ever used as a coping mechanism for the things you see? And this guy goes, no. Absolutely not. If I've had a really hard shift, I'll go home and have a couple of beers in the morning, and I'm like, that is the actual definition of what I just asked you. But that didn't register that way. And so I think we have to think through the reasons behind the drinking. Is it just I'm bored, or is it I saw some really bad stuff and I need a way to unwind from that? Because we do see in the literature that seems to be often unrecognized, but what's actually going on. None of our studies where we've looked at mental health outcomes and symptoms and alcohol use have we not seen those two tightly connected. But like I said, a lot we're doing right in the fire service, a lot of really good things going on in the fire service, that camaraderie, that getting together, that, hey, let's check in, even if it's let's grab a beer. I think we don't want to do away with that. We don't want to have a case of beer, but grabbing a beer is not a bad idea. So we're doing a pretty good job there for most people, unless we're not. And this is one area that we had some data on recently that I think is alarming, and is that we talk about mental health and how we're really going to impact mental health. We have to make sure that crew and that environment in the firehouse is supportive of everyone. And if people don't have that support there, we need to help them find a kitchen table somewhere, because we're now able to document the benefit of the kitchen table. With this study, we surveyed almost 2,000 women in the fire service, and we divided into tertiles, low, medium, and high levels of discrimination and harassment, so workplace incivility. And what we found is one of the big drivers for mental health and physical health issues in injury and lost work days is actually the workplace environment. So women who came to work and felt like they were treated poorly and they were not part of that kitchen table approach had triple the rate of depression, had higher rates of anxiety, and had more than a doubling of the risk of post-traumatic stress disorder. They were also more likely to be injured. They were also more likely to have lost work days. So the interesting thing there is, we look at that data and we think, oh, we can now quantify the benefit of the kitchen table. If we didn't have that, if we didn't have this, we're all in this together, brotherhood, sisterhood, we would see triple the rates of depression. We would see more than double the rates of post-traumatic stress. If you treat women or anyone, we have data on men, I just haven't published it yet, so I don't have a slide on it, but it was a similar result, where if you don't treat them poorly, if it's someone who's like singled out and bullied and harassed, their outcomes are not gonna be good. You bring women or any other group in and you treat them well, and they will not be any more or less screwed up than the other people in the fire service. But we know that it's protective. We know, and I mean that with love, but we know that that's protective. We know that kitchen table approach is protective. We just have to make sure that it's accessible to everyone, because that is the strength of the fire service. Frank Lito, who has been with FDNY, he did FDNY Counseling Services Unit 9/11 to the 20-year retirement. My favorite quote from him is he says, "The magic is us." And he's right. When you look at the literature, it is consistent. The magic of the fire service is the fire service when it comes to mental health. And we can do this. We can do this all together. Now, the non-magic of the fire service is your interrupted circadian rhythms. Grab your phone and take a picture of this slide, or text yourself or order it on Amazon. Save it on Audible. This book will change your life. If you don't like to read whole books, I completely understand. Matthew Walker also does podcasts, TED Talks. You can get him anywhere. This book is one of my top 5 favorite books that I've ever read, and it's one of the most impactful. We've got to be talking about mental health. We've got to be talking, we can't have a conversation about mental health without talking about interrupted circadian rhythms. What he does in that book is describes all of the impacts, cancer, cardiovascular disease, reproductive health, mental health, of interrupted circadian rhythms and not prioritizing your sleep. Now, you might be asking, if it's so good, why don't we have Matthew Walker here? Well, I called him for a keynote one time. Anyone want to guess how much he charges? $40,000 in a first-class ticket from California. So I am the cheap version of Matthew Walker, and I am worth every penny you're not paying him to talk about sleep. What we see with sleep is that it has such an impact. Sleep, shift work in and of itself, shift work, which is operationally defined as being interrupted in your sleep in the night when you should be sleeping when it's dark outside, is a possible carcinogen according to IARC. Shift work in and of itself. And when we look in terms of what can we do, Sarah, what can we do about this? What should we be talking about? We're never going to have a 9-to-5 job, right? Volunteers are never going to be able to be like, we are so here for our neighbors from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., but then we need our rest. Career's never going to say, leave a message, we'll be there in the morning. So someone's going to have interrupted sleep. So what do we do about that? Here's a few good takeaways. The first one is everyone should get screened for a sleep disorder. 37.2% of the fire service screens positive for sleep disorder when you ask them about their symptoms. 80% of those people have not been diagnosed, so they have no idea. Our peer teams, our peer fitness teams, everyone needs to be talking about sleep disorders and making sure we're screening and treating people with sleep disorders. Because does it have an impact? I wouldn't ask the question or have a slide. If it doesn't, if you look at those people who screen positive versus those who don't screen positive for a sleep disorder, they're twice as likely to report a motor vehicle crash, and they're more than twice as likely to fall asleep while driving. Now, I did have a conversation with a guy who sells fire trucks this morning, and those things are expensive, right? You do not want people crashing them. So we need to make sure that we're treating the sleep disorders. What else? Cardiovascular disease. More than twice as likely to report cardiovascular disease if you have a sleep disorder, whether when it's untreated. Super important to be paying attention. Also double the risk of diabetes. And why did I include this in the mental health section? Because 3-fold increase in depression and almost 4-fold increase in anxiety. We've got to start talking about where's our target-rich environment. It's talking about sleep disorders. It's also talking about prioritizing sleep. There is not a mental health disorder, there's not cancer, there's not cardiovascular disease, there's not reproductive health that is not tied to how we sleep. So you might be saying to yourself, I probably get enough sleep. Who in the room sleeps 7 to 8 hours a night? I'm going to assume that you're just not raising your hand because surely someone in the room sleeps 7 to 8 hours a night. Who's more like 5 to 6? Or 6 to 7? I got some bad news for you. Anything under like a 7-hour-a-night sleep decreases your testosterone, increases your risk for cancer, increases your risk for cardiovascular disease. It is astonishing the impact that interrupted circadian rhythms have and lack of sleep. And what do we do about it? Some ways, there's not much we can do. You're going to get up for calls in the middle of the night. What can you do about it? Prioritize the sleep when you can, how you can. Whether you're off the job or napping in the afternoon, and I know that not everyone loves the idea of tactical napping. I think if you put tactical in front of anything, it sounds cooler. So we do know from research out of Pittsburgh that tactical napping is a thing and should be prioritized. If you know you're going to be up in the night, drink a cup of coffee, take a 20-minute nap. You don't want to hit your first REM cycle, so we want to stay under the hour mark by about half an hour. Take a little bit of a nap, and it'll help you over the night. Now, I also bring up reproductive health because reproductive health and all the things that are impacting your reproductive system are a more proximal outcome of what we see with the risk factors of cancer. So when we researched reproductive health, we started with women, then switched to men. I'll talk a little bit about that too. But we know that women in the fire service and the career fire service are twice as likely to experience a miscarriage as the general population. We know that volunteers are 42% more likely than careers to experience a miscarriage. Are we underestimating some of the risk for cancer and other impacts in the volunteer fire service? I would say based on this data, very likely the answer is yes. So we have more research is needed there. One of the things I highly encourage everyone to do is sign up for the National Firefighter Registry for Cancer. Put on my NIOSH, you can Google it and enroll. It's the way we're going to be able to look at volunteer firefighters, because currently we don't track firefighters with cancer in the volunteer fire service. Now, you might think, oh, miscarriage is not my issue because I'm a man. Well, guess what? Sperm is also impacted. Did you even know I was going to talk about sperm? What an exciting presentation this has been. I've covered it all. And now people are leaving. They're like, I do not want to hear about that. We know that men in the fire service actually need to seek fertility treatments more than the general population by about 46%. Take control of your own health. We've started to develop guides where you can take information to your clinicians. Reproductive health in particular, we have this for women on our website, but we also have one for men I'm going to show you in a second. And I know this has been a lot. I know it's been incredibly depressing. I'm going to give you kind of my top 10. In terms of what can you do, because there is so much we can do, and these are evidence-based recommendations. One is assume everything's a hazmat event. When you think about hitting the fire ground, all of the stuff that you've traditionally thought, oh, that's gross, I'm just going to wipe it off, or I'll take a shower once the truck is clean. Haligans don't get cancer, firefighters do. Realize how dangerous any of those chemicals that you are exposed to can be, and just get them off of you as soon as you can. Don't use tobacco. I've got a whole other presentation on that, and I'm not going to get into that, but as a firefighter, it is more important that you be healthy than the general population. Don't use tobacco. Prioritize your sleep. Sleep when you can, the best you can. Connect with other people. If you don't have the people at your station and in your crew that you feel safe with, find other people that do that. Eat things you recognize, fruits, vegetables, meats. Try to avoid processed foods. Some of it's not actually even food. Move more and better. Think about where you're at today in terms of fitness and do a little bit better tomorrow. We don't have to run marathons tomorrow, but if you're doing nothing today, maybe walk tomorrow. Rethink the way you drink. I've already talked through that. We're going to do that Monday to-do list, okay? Use the power of peer pressure. If you can get a crew or an organization on board for something in terms of health and wellness, you're golden. You can all work towards the same goal. Take control of your health care. It's all up to you in terms of what you do. Your doctor doesn't understand what it is to be a firefighter. It's your job to educate them. And the last one's breathe, in general sense of like breathe, but also we're doing good stuff, right? You guys stayed through the whole presentation on science and health and wellness. We're making progress. Yes, you want your departments to be better. Yes, you want to do better yourself, but we're doing a good job, so we just need to keep moving forward. I mentioned that you can, one of the things you can do to take care of your own health is talk to your physician. First, have a physician, and yes, I know that 80% of you in the room don't have a primary care doc. Find one, and then talk to them about the fact that you have exposures that are beyond what most people have. So, this is my gift to you today if you so choose to accept it. We started an organization, like they said at the beginning, that translates science to practice. We put it in pictures, we put it in infographics, we put it on social media. We're also working to make sure practice informs science. So we created this organization. We have a website, so it's real. We're on social media. I'm not in charge of it because I'm crappy at social media. But if you'd like to join, we have about 4,000 members so far across the country. You're welcome. This is your invitation for a year's membership. I'll give you a second to scan that. And then I'll just give my contact information, and that's all. Science. Now who's excited? Really? I gave you all that science? That's all I get? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. This is also the coolest challenge coin that I have. It's amazing. Thank you.
I saw her put the heart rate slide up there, and this morning when I walked on stage for the first time, my watch thought I was working out. It said 200 beats per minute. What are you doing? Was not working out. Before I call on the next group to come up, just a reminder, I know Dr. Jenke spoke a lot about cancer. Through several past presidents, the executive committee, numerous committees, the state fire, obviously your association staff, they all worked extremely hard to come up with a cancer policy that each one of you has access to. So I hope and pray that you never have to use it, but just do know that that is there for you to use if you were to get cancer. I'll now call on Second Vice Jason Dennis and Annie Wooten for the legislative update.
I guess I'm short. I'm going to use the block. Over the past year, I've had the honor to serve as your chairman of your legislative committee, and I'm happy to say that I feel like we've had a very good and successful, busy year. You know, as we listen to this presentation, and I think about like President Arendt mentioning our cancer bill, as well as some other health-related issues that we're watching down at the State House, as well as addressing PFAS and other things. I just feel really good about our initiatives and the proactive approach that we take as a state to take care of our firefighters, so I'm so grateful for that. I do want to take a moment to mention your legislative committee members. I'm so thankful for the work that they did, as well as our staff and our friends at Stewart Conderos and Associates. We've got Miss Annie with us today, as well as Miss Cindy and Gregory. And if you see those folks, talk to them. Learn a little bit about what they do for us downtown in Columbia to really, really help our state's fire service move forward legislatively. And at this time, I'd like to call Miss Annie up to just give us a quick overview of our legislative session this past year. Thank you.
I don't know if I need this box. We'll try it out. I'm already tall enough. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And as he said, my name is Annie Wooten, and I am part of the team that goes downtown to the General Assembly to advocate on your behalf. And I know I speak for all of SKA when I say that it is an honor and it is a privilege to be an extension of the fire service and serve you all in this small way. So part of what we do is we provide weekly legislative updates, and they just come in the form of a report that is added to the website that you can find very easily, and we do it every week, and it's just to indicate movement about legislation that we're watching that may impact the fire service and interest you all. Gregory has brought up our group average and helped us with some tech savviness and efficiency, and so what we do is we categorize the legislation numerically and by color. So if you want to look at it from a pie-in-the-sky point of view and get a brief summary, legislation that has been enrolled and ratified is indicated in green. Legislation that has been passed by one body and sent to the other is indicated in blue. Legislation that's moving through a committee assignment is indicated in yellow, and then if there's a red text with an arrow following it, that just notates the most recent action taken on the bill. And there are a lot of bills on that report. A lot of bills are bills that have been filed in years past, and the ones that I want to talk to you about today are ones that we have particular interest in, whether they have passed and have become law or they are moving through the legislative process. And I want to make a quick note that legislative session is a 2-year session, and this last year was the first year in our legislative session. So any bill that did not pass and become law, wherever it stands in the legislative process, that's where it will resume next year come January 2026. We do not have to start over and refile the bill. The first bill that I want to talk to you about has been passed, and that is Senate Bill 101 by Senator Gambrill that deals with firefighter registration. It was signed by the governor, and it was effective upon the same day. And essentially what this bill does, it amends the South Carolina firefighter registration law to clarify and update several definitions and requirements. The next one that was passed and will become law, it goes into effect September 1 of 2025, is House Bill 3276, and that deals with South Carolina hands-free and distracted driving. Essentially our No Texting While Driving Act. It's our version in South Carolina. This bill prohibits drivers from holding or supporting mobile electronic devices while operating a vehicle on public roads. However, there are exceptions, which include emergency situations, navigation, and use by first responders. The next few bills that I want to talk to you about are moving through the legislative process. They have not yet passed and become law. So the first one is House Bill 4249, that's emergency scene management, and this has passed the House and was sent to the Senate, and it relates to definitions of emergency scene management, and it makes quite a few technical changes within that definition. The next one is H 3535, and that's our halo and our buffer zone piece of legislation. And we've worked on this outside of legislation and through session. And essentially what it does is it creates a 25-foot safety zone around a first responder during any official action. And what this does is it protects the first responder as well as the individuals or the incident they're responding to, and it keeps interference from them while they're performing their official duties. This was heard by the House Criminal Law Subcommittee, and it was carried over, but it will pick back up there next year in legislative session. The next bill is Senate Bill 52. That's our DUI bill by Senators Davis and others. Now, what this bill does is it amends the penalty provisions to permit sentences of both fines and incarceration, and it requires convicted persons to attend DUI victim impact panels. The next grouping of bills, they deal with tax deductions and exemptions. And currently there are 6 bills that have been filed relating to tax incentives for first responders. I want to talk to you about 2 of them. The first one is the appropriations bill, and that's the state budget bill. That bill has passed and will go into effect July 1 of 2025. However, the governor submitted his vetoes in June, but these vetoes do not affect the fire service. And essentially what the budget bill does, it allocates funds for government operations and services for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025. But what I want to point out to you in that bill is the tax rate being reduced from 6.2% to 6% this year, and that puts earnings back into your pocket. So it's something that we've definitely kept an eye on. The next bill I want to point you to is House Bill 4216, dealing with state income tax by Representative Bannister and others. This passed the House and was sent to the Senate, and what this bill does is it amends changes to the South Carolina individual tax income structure beginning of tax year 2026. The bill imposes a tax rate of 1.99% on taxable income up to $30,000 and a 5.39% on $30,000 and over. It's a bill that both bodies have spoken about, that they are continuing to do a lot of work on, and it's something that they will pick back up come January, starting next legislative session. The next grouping of bills deal with return to work, and we hear and we talk about return to work a lot, and a lot of these bills have been filed in years past, and they have since been filed again. None of them are moving, but what it essentially would do is it would allow a member of the South Carolina retirement system or the police officers retire system to come back to covered employment without the $10,000 earnings limitation should they meet certain criteria. But I do want to remind you all that the proviso 108.14 located in the state budget is still in effect. And what that proviso says is that it would allow a member of SCRS or PORS to come back to covered employment without the cap, so as long as they have that 12-month separation. Next are the workers' comp bills. There are 2 bills dealing with workers' comp, but only one of those bills is moving, and that is House Bill 3163 by Representative Mark Smith. And essentially, that bill includes a stroke to the list of occupational diseases and conditions compensable under workers' compensation. The next bill that we're keeping an eye on is House Bill 3259. That's the First Responder Automobile Insurance Premium Bill, and that's by Representative Pope and others. This bill has passed the House. It was sent to the Senate. It made it through subcommittee and committee, and it's now sitting on the Senate calendar. And what this bill says is that it would be unlawful to consider the work-related driving record of a first responder when determining their personal insurance premiums, so as long as they are not a non-contributing factor in an accident, so if it happened during work. That's a bill that we have also been keeping a close watch on. Next bill is our Panic Alert Systems in Public Schools bill, House Bill 3258. And essentially this would just require the acquisition and implementation of these Panic Alert systems in public schools, and then it implements and establishes certain criteria regarding these systems. The next bill is Senate Bill 346 by President Alexander. Senator Alexander, who is the president of the Senate, is his bill. And this bill enhances penalties for assaulting a firefighter or a healthcare worker while they are engaged in the performance of their official duties. And then the last grouping of bills I want to talk to you about are dealing with safe havens. There are 3 bills that have been filed dealing with safe havens, and they all are a little bit different. Their versions, it's not all the exact same language, and only one bill has been given consideration, and that's S-121. It passed the Senate and was sent to the House on May 8th, 2025. I hope I didn't bore you to death. I tried to breathe too, but I also want to let you know that we are accessible. We always say we may doze, but we never close. And we want you all to engage in this process, and we want to be as helpful as we can. So if you are at Legislative Day or if you are up at the State House, come find us. Come talk to us. We would love to shake your hand and say thank you, and thank you for letting us be a part of this, the amazing organization that you are. That's all I have for today. So if you have any questions about anything that I talked about, please come find me. And like I said, this is not the entire report. If you wish to see it, you can find it on the website. So thank you all so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week.
They keep talking about this stool up here. I don't need the stool, but I need these old man glasses. Randy will get that in about 10 more years. My name is Jamie Kajana. I'm chairman of your South Carolina Firefighters Foundation. I kind of want to give you what's been going on with the foundation this year, and then we've got a couple things we're going to be giving out and some exciting news. This past year, we had actually assisted 6 firefighters for a total of over $9,000. That number decreased. We're happy that firefighters didn't have the issues that they have been having, but we're always here to stand behind them when they do. We will be giving out 4 scholarships here in just a little bit, totaling them just at $4,000. This past year, we started a new service that we are providing to fire departments and firefighters in the state, and that being that we all know of the GoFundMe on social media and raising money for people. This past year, we were able to have a program that we can offer that service to raise money for firefighters, whether it's a death, whether it's a sickness, or whatever that might be, an injury. And we did that this past year for several fire departments and several firefighters, and that was able to raise over $20,000 for those firefighters from donations from the communities and the citizens and firefighters around the state. Another exciting thing that's continuing to grow, and they talked about it earlier, was a Children's Burn Fund. As we know, that came up underneath the foundation, and a couple years ago, and that is continuing to grow. They're continuing to do more things. We always hear about burn camp in the summer, but it amazes me every time I get my financial report every month of what they actually do for these families all year long. That is a great project. The staff and the group that manages that are doing some great things, and thank you always on our behalf for helping them and helping the foundation raise funds by having those can trailers there at your stations, taking those and selling those cans and then sending that money in. We really appreciate everything you do for those. At this time, we're going to be giving out 4 scholarships. Those scholarships, we had a lot of people apply. We wish we could give every one of them a scholarship, but this year we had to narrow it down to 4. These scholarships are able to be given out by different organizations and different people. The Sam Carbis Group, I hear that name. Y'all probably hear that name and go, I have no clue who Sam Carbis Group is. Sam Carbis Group is located in Florence, South Carolina, and they make alkalite ladders that most firemen, I know there's really 2 ladder manufacturers, but they make the alkalite ladder. Sam Carbis was a gentleman that started that group. They have been generous every year providing one of the scholarships. The Chief Jim Stone family provides money. Chief Jim Stone passed away, and that family wanted to carry on his name, and so they continue to fund that scholarship every year. And the other 2 scholarships are funded by your foundation in honor of 2 individuals. The first one, the Sam Carbis Group, is presented by Deborah Kelly and James Bishop, and that's going to Brett Beach. Mr. Beach could not be here, but we definitely wanted to recognize him for receiving that scholarship. The second scholarship is the Chief Jim Stone Scholarship, and it's presented by the Chief Helms. The Stone family could not be here, and that goes to Scott Vazar. The third one, the Carter Jones Scholarship, is presented by Mr. Carter Jones, and that goes to Christian Stewart. And the final one is Chief Lewis Barron Scholarship, presented by President Arant to Madison Manning. If you would help give me a round of applause for these individuals. Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much. Couple more comments and I'll get off of here. Yesterday, it's been mentioned, we had the golf tournament. As always, that golf tournament is a huge success. Yesterday, everybody, I think, had a lot of fun. It did get warm towards the end, but everybody had a good time. Saw a lot of smiles and just laughter, and it was really a good time for everybody to get together. But the main thing we did is we raised a lot of money. We have not seen the final numbers, but hope to get those soon of what that yesterday raised. One of the things that we did this year is we had to turn away 10 teams. We had a total of 40 teams. We had to turn 10 away. We just couldn't fit them in. So next year, we've already planned on getting 2 courses, so we can do actually, I believe it would be up to 72 teams. So if you like golf, want to play golf, and you got turned away this year, please come back next year and let your members in your departments know, because we'd love to have all 72 teams to make that fundraiser even bigger. I want to thank our sponsors. They should come up on the screen. We have a platinum sponsor of Blue Cross Blue Shield, and they sponsored the golf tournament. We have 3 gold sponsors, and that's the South Carolina Firefighters Insurance Services, McGriff Insurance, and Providence Insurance. Silver sponsors, we had 3, Spartan Fire Apparatus, Safe Industries, and the South Carolina Burn Children's Fund. Bronze sponsorship, CCM Investments, Green Finley Cawley LLP, NAFCO, Reinhardt Services, Greenville County Fire Chiefs Association, Service Master, and Paul Davis Restoration. Really want to thank them for their sponsorship of the golf tournament. We couldn't do it without them. They do some great things for us. Brian, are they coming out? Okay. Look at this good-looking group of people that actually wrote a check and sponsored us, and we really don't run into them, Phil. Thank y'all so much. If any way possible, please support these businesses and help them so they can continue to help us. Couple things I want to remind you of. Again, this year we do have the silent auction. Again, this year we do have another AR-15 we're raffling off. I know that was a big hit last year. So we do have another one just identical to it. And so that will be going off. We'll raffle that stuff off, and it'll close at Saturday at 12. Please stop by the booth, buy you some tickets. There's actually some silent auction, a lot of good things there came in. I couldn't thank the people that help us get those items to be able to raise money. It's a huge fundraiser for us to allow us to help you. But finally, I couldn't thank each one of you for what you do to help the foundation. You see me up here talking, but I'm not the one that does the work. Y'all do the work. Y'all help us raise funds every year, whether it's the golf tournament, silent auction, or whatever it might be that we raise funds for, to allow us to be able to help members when they hit that kind of stop sign in the road or that brick road that they just can't go any farther. We're able to help them get over that and get past that, and we couldn't do it without you. So thank you. Please give yourself a round of applause for what you do to help raise money for the foundation.
I have the distinct pleasure of talking to you about a topic 40 years in the making, and one of which you need to be very familiar. I don't think I overstate it when I say potentially this is and will be a game changer for our 450 plus fire departments in our state. Volume 29 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Section 1910-156, currently is known as the Industrial Fire Brigade Standard. When I joined the fire service in the mid-'80s, it was a big topic in South Carolina because our state had just adopted this firefighting standard, this regulation. It was being administered by our state, and it impacted and affected largely what our departments were doing, how we were training, and it was always there. It was always in the back of our mind. We were always thinking about it. Fast forward 40 years of no change, and in the latter part of 2023, federal government released a 600-plus page document outlining not only what they proposed to be in a new 1910-156, but also commentary and elaboration, if you would, on what that standard would be. In the year 2024, your association saw fit to actively participate in written and oral comments on the adoption of this standard, because quite frankly, we saw it as a major game changer for the way all of us operate, the way all of us apply many of the things that we do now by standards into a regulation. The document, if you have read it, will quite frankly shock you in that many things, one of which over 20 of the NFPA standards are incorporated by reference. Standards that we have used to design training and do many things that we have done in our careers and in our stations and systems, but when incorporated by reference, become very economically and technically infeasible. Quite frankly, our estimation is that if this proposed regulation, as it is currently written, is passed by the federal government and handed off to the state of South Carolina, which I'll talk more about in a second, there will be at least 30% of the fire departments in this state that will either choose to just simply have to ignore it or face noncompliance. And again, I don't overstate the fact that I think they would have to choose even to the drastic extent of closure. Now, no one in this association, none of the speakers you've heard today, nor myself, are against safety. Everything I've done for 40 years, and most of you the same way, has been about improving and enhancing the safety of you and your personnel, the people around you, and the people yet to come. All of the allocation of resources that we have held so dear to us, the lobbying that we have done, the laws that have been passed, have been about improving that safety. Nobody's against it. But I want to share with you a QR code that I want you to take a picture of. And I want you to go to this page and take a few moments to look at some of the history behind this document and our responses. It is our stance that as South Carolina is a OSHA state, which means the feds adopt a standard and hand it off to those states that have their own OSHA programs, those states then may be able to write a plan that meets or exceeds what the feds are offering. Your association chose early on to get rapidly involved in writing our own state plan. Now, there's a couple of key words in that you need to be aware of. First was the concept of things being economically and technically feasible. We have addressed and are continuing to address what we feel like are methodology, methods and means by which we can achieve what the second term is, I want you to remember, meet or exceed that federal standard. That should immediately scare you if you realize, well, now, Joe, you just told me that it's going to be harder on us at the federal level, so how are you going to meet or exceed? Well, I think there's a couple of things that are going to happen at the federal level. My crystal ball tells me, number one, I don't believe that the incorporation by reference of those NFPA standards will stand. I think that there will be legal action which will remove those IBRs. There's been indication of that fact as it is. I think, secondly, that there will be a large movement at the federal level to exempt volunteers. Whether that will be successful or not, I don't know. Let me hear you clearly say to those in this room who, like myself, are volunteers, we're not in favor of exempting volunteer firefighters. Volunteer firefighters numerically are the larger group in this state. They have line of duty deaths and injuries just like anybody else. They deserve to be treated equally in the eyes of us maintaining safety for our workforce. So therefore, the challenge is with our project to write a state plan that is feasible and meets or exceeds. We assembled a group of individuals. Some are here this week, I have seen, and some are around this state multidisciplinary to start working on this plan. And we are on version 14 or 15. They change almost daily. I'll be happy to share that version with you if you'd like to see me walking around this week. I'll be glad to do it. But just understand it's a changing document. Once the feds adopt the new 1910-156, not necessarily before, but once they do, we then have a 2-year window to get our OSHA program, our state plan adopted. So it's our intention to have a package ready to be able to hand off to LLR and state OSHA. And I would offer to you, we've already been meeting and having those conversations, and the OSHA director is Christina Baker, who is a wonderful person, brilliant, smart, knows this system inside and out, and I consider them to be a partner in this, in the formation of this document before it gets to that 2-year adoption process. At that web page, at that QR code will take you to, you'll find many other supporting documents, answers, questions, names of those committees. I would encourage you, if you're passionate about this, to please come and join us. We'd love to have you as part of the development of this. I'll be around for the next couple of days, walking around. Corner me, catch me, give me your email or card. We will include you. Be prepared and be ready, be knowledgeable, because it is a game changer. Thank you.
I'm not moving it again. Thank you, Chief Palmer, for your hard work on that. I'm excited to bring Executive Director Helms up to the podium. He is going to discuss a new special project announcement that we have that's going on.
Thank you, Mr. President. Real quick, I know we're standing between you folks and lunch, and we want to try to get through the rest of the program as quickly as possible. The association back in 2020 started a project to try to start looking at facilities for staff, facilities for a large area for us to be able to hold meetings and things, both in the Columbia area. We also were wanting to make sure that we have a spot that we can build a museum. So we are excited to announce that we are working on a potential purchase of a building for renovations. We're in the process of going through an inspection period on this building. But one of the things that this brings to us is an opportunity to create a better communication piece on what we're doing with the museum, and we're calling it the Friends of the South Carolina State Fire Heritage Center and Museum. It's an opportunity for you members to make sure that you get on a mailing list, communications list, so that we can get you involved in what we're doing, so that we can explain what we're doing, and so that we can keep this project moving along. I encourage all of you, as you're in the vendor hall, please come by both our association booth. You'll see all of us located in one area in there. Also go and talk with Carter and the folks in the history side. They'll be collecting, your information so that we can communicate out to you how to donate, how to help, us build this piece that will preserve the history of this organization and this state fire service for many, many years to come. So we're 120 years old, and we're trying to make sure that we can get us to another 120 years. So thank you for your time. We look forward to getting this stuff to you so that you can help us as we go forward with this exciting and new project. Thank you.
Thank you for that update. Yeah, that's a project that's been going on now for about 4 years. I believe it started with President Caggiano, so we've been keeping that going and hope that comes to fruition. Next, I'd like to call up on stage Mr. Robert Key with CCM Advisors, and then Ms. Kara Tedesco with Milliman.
Thank you so much, Chief. It's a pleasure to be here again this year. We have good news to bring you, but a little bit of background first. Interestingly enough, our firm has been on the scene since 2016, July 1st, 2016. We've seen this plan grow substantially since we got started. Right now, there are 198 departments participating. That consists of over 13,000 participants and beneficiaries. The plan is overseen by the trustees, so truly this is a plan that is for firefighters, that is overseen by firefighters, and Milliman and CCM Investment Advisors report to those trustees. Milliman, of course, is the record keeper that's been on the scene now for, Kara, 2 years now?
Yep, we're coming into our second year. We started doing the work, the record-keeping work for the retirement plan, both the LOSAP and the other retirement plan. Last year we started it. We've done 2 rounds of participant statements and allocations, and we're working on the June 30 statements of 2025. We appreciate everybody's patience and understanding with us as we go through the round of learning, the plans and the departments and the players, the participants, the distribution processing, and how important it is to, all of you, and how seriously we take it and do our best to accommodate what everybody needs and work with the trustees and Jamie and Kim and, of course, Robert and his team to make it run smoothly for you. We got this. How are we using this?
I can't emphasize how important the relationship between Milliman and CCM Investment Advisors is. Kara and her team do an enormous amount of work. As you can imagine, keeping track of 13,000 participants for 198 departments it's a daunting task, and it's transitioning into it. There have been some bumps, but they've worked through the bumps.
We're trying.
Yeah, they've done a great job. I am pleased to report that it has been, it's a great couple of years for the plan. As you can see in the slide, the total market value for the funds, all four funds, is $139,792,496. Most impressive, I think, is that, you know, obviously there are contributions that go into the fund. There are withdrawals, payments to beneficiaries that come out of the fund. But since we got started in 2016, there has been $65,865,000 worth of investment growth since that time. So it's been quite a run, and you know, we appreciate the relationship with the association, and we're delighted to see these kind of results come forth to the benefit of the beneficiaries. Plan information, you can go to the association website. You can find all sorts of administrative details that Milliman can supply, plan details, frequently asked questions, communication, and many sorts of participant education materials. We will, in fact, be having a class tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock talking specifically about the tools that Milliman has available for retirement planning. I think that is a wonderful opportunity to utilize some really advanced techniques to help you, participants and firefighters, plan for your future. All the forms and whatnot are on the website too. And then within another section of the website, we have all sorts of investment information available for you too, talking about how the funds are performing, asset allocation, and then any other sorts of market commentary that we make available to clients as well. We will be having another class today at 2 o'clock, and I believe that's in room 202. And that'll be a little bit more of an expansion of this presentation here, so you can come learn about the plan, get into some more detail about what has transpired over the last couple of years, and performance updates and whatnot. Carol will be there to chat as well. And then, again, Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock, that's when you can come learn about the tools that are available to you to plan for your retirement. Then I do have one last piece of information I want to share, and that is that next year, on January 31st, I will be retiring. My successor has been named and is down here with us. He's not up on stage with us, but Rich Linden will be assuming, or actually has assumed, the role as president of CCM Investment Advisors. He will be with me and Kara at the association booth to meet. He will be with us at the classes, so I encourage you to stop by and chat. We'll look forward to seeing you either this afternoon or tomorrow afternoon, or both times. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody. I know you're ready for lunch, but we're going to talk to you a little bit about our insurance services organization. And before I turn the mic over to Zarina, I just wanted to, first of all, thank my entire board that's standing behind me, also staff that works tirelessly all year long to improve your insurance company. Also want to thank our key sponsors who helps us out through the year, McGriff Insurance, our friends at Provident. Without those folks, you would not have the benefits that you get to enjoy as being a member of this organization. And lastly, I want to thank Zarina, her staff, everybody that was involved in planning our beach bash last night. Folks, that was amazing. Show of hands in the room. There's not many of you left, but how many were there last night? Excellent. How many enjoyed that? Let's give everybody a round of applause who put that together. I'm going to step out of the way and let Zarina bring some really important information and data to you.
Got to slide my box over here. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and I know we are almost the end here, so I wanted to actually make notes this year because I thought there were a few things that were really important to share with you. I look back over this year, and we really made some true progress when it comes to benefits and the products that we offer you all. Because of everyone's trust, the board of directors, the staff, we were able to almost double the number of people in our association health care plan. This was giving more affordability and better products to our members and their families. So this was just a great year for that, and I see a lot more of that to come as we navigate the healthcare field. And with that said, I want to thank our partners, Blue Cross Blue Shield, for making that happen, and McGriff Insurance. We also continued to do a really deep dive into our benefits this year, so we looked for other products that could service us really well, and we chose to partner with Washington National, so I welcome them to our group. You'll be hearing about them a lot as the year goes on, but their values and their expertise really lined up with our mission, and we look forward to having them out to your departments and see how they can help service you. And one of the big things, this is really a collective thing with everybody that stands on this stage behind me, the board of directors, the staff, all of our partners, really facilitate claims in this state. And I thought it was important to know that over the past 5 years, we have paid out to our members over $10 million in benefits. And I think that is an incredible work of staff, our partners, and like I said, all of your support. Because ultimately, like Jonathan Jones said, we can't do what we do without you, without your support. And it is sort of that bittersweet to say that $10 million figure because it means that you were all in need, but also we were there to be able to help. And that's where our passion is, and we want to be there for you. And we hope that you continue to come to our classes, 2 o'clock. Take advantage of all the partners that you see here at this conference, and just say a thank you to those that make it happen. But like I said, without you, it really is what gives us the reason to grow and to support you and to look for better things. So with that said, thank you all. I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you when we see you, okay?
Again, thank you, Chief Kramer and Z, for what you and the insurance services does for our members. I've told our final speaker that he has to cut his speech down from an hour to 45 minutes, so we're almost there. Just kidding. Being we are in the business meeting, there should be some microphones down at the floor level. We are now going to open up the floor for any new business. All right, seeing no one bringing anything up, I'm going to bring Chief Guire out, and we're going to kind of talk about the remainder of the week and some fun stuff that we've got planned.
Chief Kramer wasn't kidding. It did thin out, huh? Well, thank you all for staying. Just going to kind of hit some highlights of some things that are going on. As you've heard repeatedly today, it's really an action-packed few days. So we just kind of want to hit the highlights. First, the schedule is on the website. Download the app. All the information is on there. Tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock and at 7:30, there are beach workouts. So if you want to get up and enjoy the beach and get a little exercise, we have them here in Myrtle Beach at 42nd Avenue. We have them in Lake Arrowhead, and we also have them in North Myrtle Beach. After that, at 8:30, there's the morning devotional with Chaplain Jenkins. There is a round table today that will be held at 3 o'clock. And if you've never taken part in a round table discussion, It's actually one, it's interactive, but two, you're listening to some interesting people that have some great insight on the fire service. So certainly we encourage you to attend that. Starting at 5:30 today, we have the soft opening of the vendor hall. So come out and support those that help make this possible, that help pay the bills for the conference. And then after that, at 9 o'clock, if you want to head out to Conway, we're showing 101 Dalmatians at the Terrace in downtown Conway for an outdoor movie. So the weather's going to be nice, so you can get a chance to take that in. And then, again, as I started with, in the morning, there's the beach workouts. So if you don't stay out too late, maybe you can get up and get those in. Also, I would like to mention there's a lot of discounts that are being offered. The Skywheel has a discount, some of the trampoline parks. There's numerous miniature golf courses that are offering 50% off. So if you go to the website or you go to the app, you can see those local businesses that are supporting the firefighters by offering discounts. And I would be remiss if I wouldn't not shout out to my alma mater, Coastal Carolina. They're playing tomorrow in the College World Series, so if you find yourself free at 2 o'clock, you can go ahead and watch that game. No one's going to say anything to you. And also, the Teal Nation store, which is located over here at Broadway at the beach, they're offering 20% off of merchandise. So get yourself some Teal merch and cheer on the Chanticleers tomorrow, because they are the only South Carolina school in the College World Series. So, and now I'll turn it over to President Arant.
Just a couple more fun things going on. Friday from 3:30 to 5, we've got the Fire Safe South Carolina ceremony that's going on. We've also got on Saturday morning, we've got the fun run at 7:30 a.m. That's going to be at the Grand Park at Market Commons. So hope you come out for that. Later in the day at 1 o'clock, we've got the Explorer Junior Firefighter Competition. That's going to be held here at the Convention Center. And then Saturday evening, we've got the banquet and the transfer of command. That's going from 6:30 to 8:30. You must have a ticket to attend that. So again, you've got to be here you've got to have a ticket to be able to be here for that. Like Chief said, if you don't have the app downloaded, it'll have the full schedule of all the classes that are going on. And again, I want to thank Chief Guire and his conference committee for everything that they had a huge part in what's going on throughout this week. So thank you so much for what you've done. So thank you. Appreciate you. All right, we are almost there. Again, thank you so much for joining us today for the opening ceremonies. We're extremely excited about what the week holds, and I hope everyone enjoys what all this conference has to offer. We hope to see everyone this evening at the Vendor Hall soft opening, and be sure to take advantage of all the classes being offered and visit the association store. There is one change that we have. The officer section meeting is going to be moved to Ballroom A. So again, that's the only change I've been told about, is the officer section meeting is going to be at Ballroom A. So if there's nothing further, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Got it. Thank y'all. Have a good day.